We're gonna let people filter in. All right. How's everyone doing? Got a new image up today. What makes it morally acceptable for you, not anyone else in the world, but you, to use animals? And I'll entertain nutrition questions by genuinely curious people. But otherwise, I've got my resources. Oh, sorry. You got Challenge 22. You can go talk to a dietitian directly. It's free. They have you all as a group, so you're with other people that are new to veganism. And you can talk to a dietitian about your specific nutritional needs, and they help you make a meal plan that fits your needs. I want to make sure my volume's up. Okay, good. Nutritionfacts.org, underneath that is it's run by a guy named Bernard Gregers, Dr. Bernard Gregers, and him and a team go through and break down studies. They make videos of it, and you kind of learn, what does it mean to be healthy. And then they also have what's called the Dailey Dozen, which is just an easy check box thing to make sure you get all your nutrition. Yeah, but these are dietitians that work there, so they know even deeper the connection between diet and health. And then we've got ChatGPT, GPT, and that's more just as like a way to find resources. Yeah, you can ask it just genuine questions like it's a real person. And then Cronometer, if like you wanted to use ChatGPT to come up with a meal plan, let's say you didn't want to talk to the dietitians, you could ask Chat to make you meal plans. Give me a vegan meal plan, it's high in protein, iron, whatever, calcium, B12. And then Cronometer, you can throw those results in to double check it. Does this actually have the nutrient content that I need? So that's why I don't really care to talk about nutrition, because it's already been, found that humans can thrive on a plant-based diet in all stages of life. The Academy of Nutrition Dietetics, one of the largest organizations of diet professionals, all agree that they have a shared opinion. They came out with a statement saying that a vegan diet is safe and healthy for all stages of life, as long as it's adequately planned, which, that's the case for any diet. If you're missing anything in any diet, it's not going to be a good diet, so, or at least a healthy one. Anyway, so yeah, well, that's why I don't really care to talk about nutrition. It's already been decided humans can thrive on a plant-based diet. So if you have options, what right do you have to cross someone else's bodily autonomy for your sensory pleasure? You got to be over 18. Yeah, you got to be over 18 to come on up. So anyway, I just want to have some genuine conversations with people, because there's an atrocity happening. How many times a day do you pay for animals to go through a system that is something we as humans would never tolerate? We would think it immoral to put humans through the systems that we put animals through. We are also made of meat. why is it wrong to infringe on human rights? Plants are not sentient. They don't have a brain or a central nervous system. Even the studies that are looking with the open-mindedness that the plants may be sentient, even those studies still conclude that there's no evidence that plants are sentient yet. So until then, they're the least harmed in this situation, so why not just eat the plants instead of the animals that we know for sure are sentient? You know, they don't want the knife across their throat. They turn away. All right, Justin, you got to be over 18. Hey, how old are you?
22.
Okay, so what makes it morally acceptable for you to use animals?
Because that's how people have always done it. I mean, all you do is look at our teeth.
Okay, so I don't know if you were here a moment ago. Do you know what the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics is?
Uh, I'm sure it's some superficial health organization run by someone that's out of shape. Just like the, FDA. Does that sound familiar?
No, it's the largest organization of diet professionals. So people that look at diet and how it's related to health. They use scientific peer-reviewed studies. So it means many, many, many professionals looked at these studies and went through the process to prove if they were legitimate studies or not. Do you know how science works?
Yeah, name one of them then, since you
One of
want
the
to be
studies?
pretentious.
I mean, the academy came together
No,
and
one of the
found
people. One of the
one of
people.
the, it doesn't matter about specific people. It's about the
Yes, it
organization all
does,
coming
because you're the
together.
one that brought it up.
Yes.
You
So
said many
why would we,
scientists have done this research. Give me one scientist.
I don't know,
Just
go look
one.
up the academy. Go look up the Academy
That's
of
not an
Nutrition and
argument. You can't tell me
Dietetics.
to do your argument for you. I'm not going to build your
Justin,
argument for you.
Justin, hush, hush, hush. Go look up these resources that I have right
No, I
here.
won't. I
Well,
won't.
then
Tell me a scientist.
you can have a nice
You're the one.
day. I'm not going to talk to people that are assholes. You can have a nice day. Hey, Red Solo
Hello.
Cup, are you over 18?
Yes, I am 19.
All right, what makes it morally acceptable for you to use animals?
Simple, because it's kosher.
What does that mean?
It means that if it's been done for thousands of years and if it's morally acceptable by modern society, then yeah, it's fine.
Okay, so why was slavery abolished?
Well, simple, because people realized that it was not morally acceptable.
Right. Why was it not morally acceptable, though?
Well, simple, because they realized that. I mean, like, what do you want? It's asking why, like, genocide is wrong. I mean, like,
Why
what do
is
you
it wrong?
even. I want you to answer that question.
Because we're sentient. Because we
Okay.
are, so that means that we are a living being that is experiencing the world, not just responding to stimuli, but experiencing things. And we're taking those experiences and weighing them out on whether we like it or not. I prefer to be comfortable. I don't prefer to be uncomfortable. So that's important because what happens to us matters to us, just like any sentient being. So
Okay,
animals
but
are sentient.
do you think that intelligence and sentience correlate with each other at all?
No, I think that sentience is a binary thing. You either are or are not sentient. Intelligence has varying degrees all over the place, even in the human race.
All right, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
All right.
Have you ever seen the movie Dominion?
No.
You should check it out. It's a documentary just to show standard practices of like free range, organic, all of those labels. And it's what we demand when we use animals. And I think even if you aren't going to go vegan, you should see what you're demanding.
Oh, I know all the systems, and it's not like I'm not gonna like
Okay.
stand for them. I'm not.
Can you tell me what has to happen to a cow in order for her to produce milk?
Oh, simple. In most cases, emphasize most, artificial insemination. I'm not going to support that. I know how horrible that is, but on, and let me preface this, on some farms that actually do care about their animals, they do not use artificial insemination or any other
Have you
different.
ever talked to a farmer? Have you ever talked to a farmer about why they use artificial insemination?
I live in like Central Florida. I'm not going out to fucking Mayaca to go talk to a farmer.
Okay. I've talked to a couple of farmers that are still arguing to use animals, and they tell me that AI is compassionate because the bulls are so big they actually break the backs of the cows.
What?
So the bulls are bred to be really big, right? Because the people that grow the bulls are advertising the bulls' semen so that people that have dairy farms or beef farms select those breeds to mate with their females so they get a specific type of cow. The bulls are more often very huge and they weigh a lot because we've messed with their genetics so much. So when they mount a female, they break her back and then she has to be put down.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't support like artificial insemination.
Okay. So artificial insemination, do you know the process of that?
Yes, it's basically rape. I know that. I'm not a fucking
Okay,
idiot.
so I just told you the only way to get milk is either a male bull SAs a cow or a male, or excuse me, not a male, but a farmer SAs a cow. Either way, the cow must be inseminated so that she becomes pregnant and then her baby is taken away. That's to get milk. The same process is really kind of done for all animals as we overbreed them on purpose to meet demands because people want their flesh and secretions so badly. So there are always going to be the mothers that are constantly SA'd so that they produce babies so that we can use them, or the secretions that come out after. And we can thrive on plants. We don't have to do any of that. Are you still there?
Yeah, I was just waiting for you because I feel I don't like interrupting people when they're trying to speak.
Okay. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on that are it is wrong, but back to the topic at hand, you can't act like there are going to be millions of people, not just in the nation, but worldwide, that are going to like actually change their entire diet.
It says you.
Yeah,
So I'm talking
you
to,
mean
as in one-on-one. Whoever I have up here, I'm asking you this question. So what makes it morally acceptable? Well, let's start over. Do you agree that animals are sentient? That they're alive, having experiences, and just weighing those out on whether they like it or not? They like to be comfortable. They don't like to be uncomfortable.
I literally answered this question already.
So you agree that they're sentient. So then
Yeah.
What gives you the right to use them when we can thrive consuming and using plants?
Do you legitimately think that
You're repeating yourself. Remember what I said. I'm not saying justify to me why the world does this.
But you
Justify to me why
you.
My question is you.
But you just said people. You can't just say people and then go back to asking a personal question.
When did I say? What are you saying? I said people.
You just said people could survive using plants instead of animals. That's literally just what you said.
Humans. Hey, calm down. Humans in general, it has been scientifically proven, humans can thrive on plants. This is a scientific fact. Okay? And if since in general all humans can survive off plants, what is your excuse since you can thrive off plants? Why do you get to still use animals?
What's the fucking point? You just pissed me off. Fuck you.
Well, you're not trying to, you just don't want to think critically. You're being lazy. That's kind of sad. You're almost there, I can tell. You're recognizing what I'm pointing out. That's why I say go watch Dominion. It might help. Hey, Lydia. Hey.
Hey there, how's it going?
It's a little rocky start, but it's okay. It's better now that you're here. All right. Let me pull up. John. You got to be over 18.
I'm
I
34.
didn't put it on the screen. Right on. So what makes it morally acceptable for you to use animals?
Because I'm an animal and animals eat animals.
Okay, but animals eat their babies. Does that give you an excuse to eat your baby?
What's the difference between women wanting to kill their baby with abortion?
That's a totally different subject as the, for example,
No,
the
it's
lions.
you're asking me. You did them. What's the difference between an
John,
animal
you know,
eating a
there are
baby?
there are both pro-life and pro-choice vegans. You know that, right?
Okay, I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about right now. What's the
Well, that's
difference?
why I say it's a totally separate subject. It's about a person that doesn't want something
So a
going on
vegan
with
that
their
is
body, that they
pro-life.
need to talk with their... John, if you're going to hyper focus on abortion, I am going to kick you. That's
I'm
not my
not.
topic. And I don't appreciate you hijacking my live. It's very disrespectful. So
I'm not
stick to the
hijacking your
topic.
live. I just asked a
Stick to the
question that
topic.
resembled what
Stick to the
you asked
topic,
me.
or I will kick you. Do you understand?
All I did was ask a question that resembled the same question you asked me.
It doesn't matter. I believe, honestly, I do think that I'm pro choice because I believe in bodily autonomy. But there are women that believe that the fetus life is more important. If that's the case for you, then why are you taking clearly sentient life away from animals?
Because it's cheaper for me to go hunting. I can fill my freezer with $34.
Well, why don't you just take out your neighbors? $0.
I've killed people before. I'll do it again.
Okay, well, John, since you don't believe in human rights, I don't have any interest in talking to you. That's disgusting that you're proud to take human life. You're a disgusting human. I hope that you choke on something.
And yes, you can't use natural fallacy to excuse any human behavior, even abortion. You have to use your logic in other areas.
Yeah. And again, it doesn't matter. As I've said before, if you're pro-life, if you're thinking that thing is a sentient being, then why are you being hypocritical and taking sentient life from other babies that are outside the womb, living? That's hypocritical. All right, let's see. Dogma. Got to be over 18.
Yep, way over 18. So I've been a vegan for the last 5 years, but in the last few months, I've allowed myself to go to the farmer's market and buy some eggs directly from the farmer. And I'm here to let you talk me out of it.
Why do you think vegans don't use eggs?
Why, like I said, 5 years as a somewhat militant vegan.
Well, it's one thing to avoid it, but why do vegans avoid it? Like, what's the purpose? We don't just eliminate things because we want to.
Well, I mean, my whole take is in fact the sentience of animals and the cruelty. And I've often thought that the factory farming system we have today will be looked back with horror by future generations who will wonder how we could have taken part in such a grotesque system.
Yeah.
And as such, a farmer's raising chickens just for eggs has somewhat, I don't want to say ameliorated that concern of mine, or maybe I'm just being selfish and I liked eggs, so I thought I'd try them after 5 years. Like I said, I'm trying to find the moral quandary here, and I
Sure.
see some.
I feel with chickens and eggs, it can be a little more hidden.
Yeah.
So, do you know what the original ancestor of chickens was? Do you know like anything about them?
No, I don't think so.
So it's called the red jungle fowl.
Mhm.
And it only laid like 12 to 15 eggs a year. And it was only during a certain time of the year when they were mating, because it's not really good when you're in nature to just waste eggs. So we've taken them and we've selectively bred them to have their ovulations daily, if not every other day. So that part is already, they've had the cruelty bred into their bodies right there. It takes a lot of their nutrients to make an egg. I think it's something like 10% of their calcium in their body goes to an egg. That's why you have to give them a certain kind of feed to make sure you're making up for that nutritional loss that they have. What sanctuaries do is they actually feed the eggs back to them. They'll just smash the egg on the ground, and the chickens eat that nutrient back up. But we've deformed them to do that. And when you get eggs, you're perpetuating that system by saying, I want more chickens to be bred that lay more eggs than they're supposed to. And at the hatcheries, I don't know if you know what happens there.
Right. Again, I do only go to the farmer's market and buy from a farmer.
Well, where do they get their chickens, right? There was at some point they purchased, if their chickens are laying eggs daily, if not multiple times a week at least, that animal has been selectively bred. That means that at some point she had brothers. They had to be eliminated because for the egg laying chickens, the males don't typically grow the right kind of meat and the right size, and they're also tend to be somewhat aggressive. So they often will just kill the males because they don't want to waste the time in the feed, right?
Right.
So it doesn't matter if it's small farm, big farm. There were brothers that were eliminated because they have no use to the industry.
Yeah.
So So that's basically why vegans don't support eggs. Let's say in a vacuum though, because I see where this illusion comes from. Let's say like you were just wandering a forest that humans had never been in, and there's a random egg that had rolled from a nest on the ground. You could use that. That would still be vegan. The problem is when you're exploiting the animal, when you're seeking them out and using them, you're stealing from them. That's what veganism is against. It's against exploitation. So again, small farm, big farm, it's all enslavement. So that's why vegans are against that.
Sounds good. A lot to think about.
Have you ever seen Dominion?
No.
You should check it out. Since you were a vegan before, it just might, so for me, I went vegan actually in 2011 for, I think like a month, but it wasn't because I was moved by the animals. It was just because I wanted to lose some weight and be healthy. And then it wasn't until later that I saw footage, and that's when I finally actually went vegan. I wouldn't even call my first transition vegan. I'd call that like plant-based, but vegan is when you don't want to exploit that animal anymore. And I feel like when you see what they have to go through, like there's no right way to do it. And it's fine if you need to go down that bunny trail looking for the right way, but you need to see the whole process. Even these organic, humane farms, they even do things that you would still be upset with. You know, sometimes they have to AI these animals, artificially inseminate them. And that means touching their private parts or, enclosing a randy male with a female to make sure that they get the right genetics. It's all yucky in my opinion. So
right.
Anyway,
seems to me that this is something that I've been somewhat passionate about for years, that some reduction is the best we could ask for our countrymen. Like, try plant-based, I don't know, 2 days a week, and we create a reduction in
So that's if we're caring about the environment, but I'm talking about each individual that's in there. So if how many animals do you want to have exploited for you? How many more?
For me, 0, I suppose. I mean, that's been
right. And the only way to do that is just to live vegan. If you care about the environment, I understand baby steps because, everyone is doing their part, but veganism is a principled stance that you're not going to support that. So that's why it's fine if you want to talk to somebody about changing their food habits in general, but that's not veganism. That would just be advocating for a plant-based diet, which is admirable. You can still go do that, but it wouldn't be veganism. Veganism is a rights movement.
Understood. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I would love to talk to you actually after you see Dominion, see if you have a mind change or anything.
Yeah, I do host a podcast. Maybe I'll do an episode about watch Dominion and talk about it.
Yeah, if you do that, send me a link to it if I don't catch it.
Yeah.
'Cause
Maybe I can even have you on.
follow.
Maybe I'll send you a DM. I'll follow you, right? Do I follow you? Let me see. Yes, I already do.
I got
Okay.
you.
I'll DM you about it in the future.
I look forward to that.
Time. Yeah. Have a good one. All right. Bye.
You too. Bye. All right. I will answer questions from honest people. Amanda, are you over 18?
Yes, I definitely am.
Right on. So what makes it morally acceptable for you to use animals?
I do agree that I don't like the way that we process them. We have them in farms. I do agree with you. I think on the moral issue of they should be able to, free roam and, exist outside of enslavement. I agree with that 100%. I don't agree with just not eating them at all, because I think that we're also animals and animals hunt. And as long as you use the full animal and are using it, then I think that is okay. Also, I have autoimmune struggles. It's hard for me to cook meals in general. It's easier to cook meals that have high protein, and I understand that plants also are high in protein, but it's a lot easier to just cook some chicken and eat it and go on with my day.
Okay. Could I ask you a question?
Yes.
Okay. Do you agree that animals are sentient?
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I also don't think that absolves them from being hunted, because they hunt one another. And I think that if we weren't as intelligent, we would be being hunted by animals as well. So that's kind of my
Okay,
stance.
so that actually leads me perfectly to my next question. Why don't we hunt the less intelligent humans?
Well, I guess we're the same species, and every human is more intelligent than a animal that isn't the same species as us.
We have humans that are of the same cognition as animals. Even children can be of the same cognition as some animals. So why don't we use them?
Because we are a privileged race that thinks that we are better than every other animal.
So would it be also that we care that they are a sentient being? We relate with them because we look like them. We know that they're having an experience of the world. Even if it's not the same as ours, they're still experiencing the world and making preferences.
I think it's more of a want to protect our human race rather than a care for actual people.
Well, I mean, there were societies that were thriving. That would eliminate babies that looked weird. So why not go back to that?
I mean, it's because we think that we're better than everything else. That's why. It's because we think that we're better.
Okay, so do you think that's a moral way to go about things?
No, definitely not.
So then what justifies you using animals?
I mean, I already explained. I think as long as you're hunting and you're using the full animal.
So might makes right.
I think that as long as you are being respectful about taking
makes right.
Then
respectful might makes fine. Right. Respectful might makes right.
Yeah. Because that's what animals do to one another.
I think we're gonna have to just disagree, because might makes right is not moral.
Using other animals as a justification for what we do, that's called a natural fallacy. That's fallacious reasoning.
Yeah, exactly. Lions unalive their babies outside the womb, fully functional living babies, and they'll eat them. They'll eat other lions' babies. Birds will knock their babies out of the nest, because they don't want to feed them.
Go to a courtroom and say, I unalived my family member because lions do that. Do you think the judge is going to accept that? No. It's because natural fallacy is not a justification for harming others.
Exactly. And I'm not going to entertain people that don't believe in human rights. That's disgusting. We all should agree here that humans deserve the right to live. We have inherent rights to not have our autonomy crossed, to not be violated, to not be used without our consent. Animals have the same rights because they have the same qualifiers. They're sentient beings making preferences on their experiences. PCMN. Are you over 18?
Oh, yeah, I'm 28 today.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thanks so much.
So, what makes it morally acceptable for you to use animals?
Well, they're good, first of all. Second of all, do you your name here says, Stony Vegan Stony? Mom over there. Do you know what goes into making your, the stuff you put in your lungs? Because I grow.
Yes.
I know. Okay.
Right.
Do you
It would
grow
be the
yourself?
same thing as organic. I do occasionally. I haven't been smoking a lot lately because I don't have a lot of money at the moment. It's gotten too expensive to maintain my setup. So,
Okay, well it's not vegan, but
oh, you
um,
want to see my vegan soil?
vegan
I have a
soil.
veganic living soil. If you want to hang tight for like 2 seconds.
Are there worms in it?
No.
So are you saying that growing crops and for worms to be involved in
Abuse.
helping
It's
the
abuse
soil
of
is
animals,
exploiting
correct?
animals?
That's not vegan.
That's not exploiting worms. Worms, just what they do in the soil already, whether or not we
Oh
exist or not.
well, animals just feed. Pigs just turn into bacon for me and feed me. You know what I'm saying? So
No, that's not
same thing.
like worms existing in the soil. You're having to intentionally breed animals to put them in the freezer.
Cats-
Oh, you
cats-
can't read. It's Katie's vegan soil.
Um. Okay, and you don't use anything to keep it alive, right? Like
Nope.
no worms.
Nope.
So I'm just
Just
curious.
plant.
What do you
Plant
Hold
stuff.
on. Let me ask you a question. What do you think veganism is?
It's the non-abuse of animals. Period.
Yeah, it's about
Well,
not
not
exactly.
exactly.
Go ahead.
So veganism is a stance against animal exploitation. So
Okay,
we're
so
not
that's
like
abuse of animals.
anti-death, or we're not trying, it's not like we're trying to avoid any kind of animal use whatsoever. Because like I said, earthworms are naturally just going to be a part of our growing systems. It's
Why is it
avoiding animal
okay for you to
exploitation
take
as much as we
advantage of that?
possibly can.
Why is it okay for you to take advantage of what the worm does, though? It's not your right.
No one's taking advantage of earthworms. They're
Yes,
living
you
in their
are.
environment where they naturally exist.
If you take it from where it naturally exists and put it in an environment to do what you want it to do for you, you are taking advantage of its existence.
That's not exploiting an earthworm.
How is it not?
Because the earthworm isn't the product. You aren't selling earthworms frozen on a tray for you to cook up in a pan and consume. You're not breeding earthworms to end up in a slaughter chamber.
Well, I could say the same about free roaming chickens and their eggs that they just lay and I go and take the egg and eat it. Then I
No
didn't.
such thing. These chickens are very selectively bred and maintained and have to be in a
Okay,
very
let me
specific
say again.
environment
If
for
I find
mass
a free
produce.
roaming chicken, if I find a free roaming chicken that is not, in a camp or whatever you want to call it, and I take its babies and its eggs, is that okay because I didn't breed it for that?
You're exploiting the chicken. You said it yourself. You're taking their infants and their eggs.
Same
That's
thing as doing with
exploitation. You're
worms.
using their bodies to produce eggs and infants.
How long have you guys been vegan?
8 years.
8 years? And then Lydia,
About 7 years.
what did you guys when and what made you vegan?
The fact that animals are sentient just like us,
And
that I wouldn't want to be subjected to those treatments. So why am I subjecting someone else to that?
and not to be offensive, but you look at least 30, right?
Well, thank you, because I'm 36.
Okay, so that means you had at least 19 years where you did eat animals, and it was
Yeah.
okay for you. So what flipped?
Yeah, but I didn't know what I was demanding. I didn't know what I was asking someone to put another sentient being through.
Are you telling me what you saw one of these Dominion videos and you were like, "Oh my God, I can't believe us as a human race would eat animals and breed
Actually,
them"?
you know what? Stop. You should talk to Lydia. I don't know. I don't want to put you on the spot, Lydia, but could you shed some light on your background?
Yeah, I actually worked on a small farm, butchered and hunted and fished and all that for almost 20 years. And then when I found out it wasn't necessary, I stopped. So it really wasn't the emotional, oh my gosh, this is what we do, because I was conditioned to be in that lifestyle and to be brutal towards animals. But once I discovered it wasn't necessary for human health whatsoever, I was like, well, there's no point of doing this.
Oh, you found out we could eat other things than just meat. What? That's crazy that it took a certain day for you to realize you didn't have to eat animals. At what you were probably at least 20. I don't know. It's kind of crazy to me that
That's
Yeah,
how.
it took-
Hey,
It actually
that's
took
how
me
information
going.
works.
Yeah,
Is
it
that how
actually took
information
me.
works?
So it actually took me going to college and getting specifically a dietetics degree to realize that all the people around me, because I grew up in the South, everyone thinks that you have to eat meat to get protein because that's how the food pyramid from the 80s works and how people perpetuated that misinformation. So went to college, got a dietetics degree, and found out all the registered dietitians I worked with were like, yeah, vegetarians and vegans are completely healthy and it's sustainable. So that's what changed me.
Okay.
Okay. So what morally justifies you using animals?
Because that's what they're here for.
Who says?
Me and God, and everybody else.
Well, this world is really imperfect. Can you step things up? Children with cancer, get out of here.
Right? No, I
Evil.
have bigger priorities than like saving animals that are literally bred to be ate. You know what I mean? They're here
How
for
many
it.
times a day are you exploiting humans versus how many times a day are you exploiting animals?
Well, I exploit predators. If you look into my page, it's PCMN stands for Prey Catchers MN. So probably every day I'll exploit people who prey on children over the internet.
Okay. Why do you do that?
I would like to say, though, so you brought up the point, well, they're bred for this purpose. So what if there's a human that was specifically bred to be trafficked? Do you think it's okay to traffic them?
Humans and animals are different. Please don't put us on the same pedestal.
No, humans are animals.
that's
But you said since the animals are bred for this purpose, thus it makes it right for that to do. Can you follow this analogy? And so if humans are bred for slavery or to be trafficked, is it okay to traffic and enslave them if they're specifically bred for that purpose?
If you unmute yourself one more time, I will kick you.
Don't no one care. Slow ass vegan bitch.
I mean, I'm just following his own logic. If that was his justification for what we do to animals, I mean, there's still slavery in the world. People are still being bred specifically for slavery. Is it okay to do just because that's what they're bred for?
Yeah, exactly. People are broken. Oh, sorry. Did you have something else to say?
No, it's all good. He was just like, humans are superior. It's like, well, I mean, humans are still enslaving each other. So, I mean, it's just not a justification whatsoever, dude.
Right. Sorry, John. I muted you just because she was still saying something. I invited you to unmute. There you go. Are you over 18?
I am. I'm 36.
Right on. What makes it morally acceptable for you to use animals?
They keep me strong and well fed.
Okay. Did you know you could eat plant-based and
I do.
still
I
be
eat
just
lots
as
of
strong?
plants.
Yes, but I mean, you could eat without the animals, none of their products.
Well, to not get into, because we're going to differ big time there, I just have one question, because I know the studies go back and forth on what you can get from plants, what you can get from protein, and they're well divided.
Do you know what Cronometer is?
Yeah, I just have a quick question for you.
Do you know what Cronometer is?
Yes, ma'am, but I have a quick question for you. I don't have much time.
You can literally type in your food and double check that you can get everything on a vegan diet. Nutritionfacts.org has the Dailey Dozen. It's a little checklist to make sure you get all your needed nutrition. Really simple. You can go ahead and unmute yourself now. I'll listen to whatever you got to say. You're muted though.
I don't know why I muted. I apologize. Anyway, so take the nutritional side out of it.
Oh, I don't know what happened. You muted again.
I got a phone call. So take the nutritional side out of it because we're going to differ there. I enjoy the taste of meat. So there's my reason for you. But here's my question. What do you eat in a daily setting?
Like, you want to know literally what I eat in a day?
Yeah, like what have you had today?
I haven't eaten yet, just because I eat breakfast late. I kind of eat between the window of 11 and 7 p.m., 11 a.m. and 7 p.m. The first meal is oatmeal with blueberries or apple, whatever I have. And
Okay.
that usually has like oat milk in it. I add a tablespoon of flaxseed, ground flaxseed, and a tablespoon of hemp seed to that. Walnuts. And then I kind of have just a big lunch dinner, which is usually like 1 or 2 vegetables that are in the fridge, and usually beans and rice, or we'll do a pasta that's it's a bean-based pasta, and a sauce. And we usually cut up tempeh in there. I don't know.
That all sounds
It's off the
delicious.
top. That's all.
I literally just had lima beans, jalapenos, sweet onion, and unfortunately you won't like the bacon I put in it, but that's what I just had for lunch. But here's my question. Do you grow all of those things you eat yourself and ensure that in the growing of that, and I know you've heard this argument because it can never be defended the same way, but do you grow those things and ensure that no snakes, mice, rats, birds, skunks, rabbits, any of those poor little sentient animals, or do you ensure that the food that you consume does not harm a single sentient being?
No. May I
Okay.
ask you, do you know what veganism means?
Yes, ma'am. It's to reduce what the harm done against animal, but you're still harming in just America. It's
That's
over
not the
7
definition.
billion animals.
That's not the definition. It's about not exploiting sentient beings. But even if we focused on your definition of reducing harm, we feed more plants to animals. So we're increasing our crop deaths so that we can feed animals plants and then eat the animals.
But you're still not able to justify all the sentient beings that your food eliminates.
So I can't go out and tell plant farmers, because vegans only make up 1 to 3% of the population. I would love to go out and change plant farmers' minds.
But why
so that
can't you grow your own?
I don't have land.
Well,
I
but
rent.
if it's that important, I understand. But if it's that important to you, if these sentient beings
Okay,
are
again, veganism is about not exploiting sentient beings. Crop deaths are not exploitation. It's an area that we're farming for food and we're protecting it. So these animals on their free will, their own free will, come in to eat our food. That means that's threatening our life source. I believe in self-defense. We can protect ourselves. Do I want bugs and creatures to suffer horrific deaths? No. I would love for it to be improved. Vertical gardening, indoor gardening, all of this kind of stuff could help us reduce our crop deaths. But I can't control that.
you're saying crop deaths? I got you.
Crop deaths. Yeah, the animals that die in the crops.
I got you. It sounded like you were saying
processing
crop
and all
dust,
that.
and I wasn't catching on with what you were saying.
I'm sorry. Crop deaths.
Yeah, but
Sorry.
no, this is. I mean, it's simply put, because I'm one of those individuals. Believe me, I hunt, I fish, I believe, I respect animals. I put more into conservation, money and time wise than the majority of people who are vegans or who the PETA type people.
Are you
would
talking
ever
about
put
through
into.
your hunting? Are you talking about through your hunting, through the taxes?
No,
and
no,
whatnot?
not just through the state. It's to organizations that I give to. It's
Okay.
to the state. It's literally conservation of animals. I believe in the respectful care and stewardship of everything outdoors.
All right. Well, let me break
lots of
this
people
down
like
for
me.
you. So the animals that you're hunting, out of the mammal, just the mammal biomass of our world, the wild animals only make up 4%, whereas the livestock make up 60%. So you're taking additional life away from the smallest sector of our
absolutely.
planet.
Because here's the thing: we have to conserve. We have to have seasons when hunting
But
certain game.
Shouldn't you be more focused on reducing the livestock animal numbers and not the small, tiny 4%?
No, not at all. Because I honestly, in my heart, believe that we can take care of these animals. We can breed these animals to keep people fed like we have since the beginning
Okay,
of
so
time.
you do believe in paying for animals to be farmed.
Oh, absolutely.
So
I mean,
you're taking
okay.
life from both sides. You're doing crop deaths, you're
I
killing the
double
animals
dip.
directly, and you're killing them in the forests.
And,
I
and
double
John, I would say if
Lydia.
you really believe in conservation, one of the biggest threats to our natural ecosystems is actually animal farming. The land usage, the waste, everything that's happening. So if you're really pro wild animals and protecting them, you would be against farming animals.
No, you wouldn't be against that. You would make sure that the pros outweigh the cons, in which statistically they do.
The
by
cons
far.
definitely outweigh
Here's
when
the
it comes
thing.
to mass animal farming, because you're
Unless
suggesting that we have to still be producing all of these animals, like billions of animals per year. And there's very serious environmental consequences to this. I mean, the land usage alone is taking up wild resources and wild spaces from wild animals.
well, that's not the biggest that's not the biggest use. You know that. You know those numbers probably better than me, and you know that is not the largest use of animal spaces being taken up. It's
I
not
mean,
into animal farming.
You're welcome to check out the data yourself. Our
It's due to forestry and it's due to development.
Yeah, but the largest, uptake of, wild animal territory and threatening a lot of these wild territories is the expansion of these farms. And we need significantly more land mass as a total to farm all these animals versus if we're on a plant-based system, it'd be far less and there'd actually be more room for conservation products and like wild animals.
So let me just so I'm hearing you correctly, you're stating that ranches, cattle ranches, poultry farms, you're stating that they are expanding at a faster rate than, let's say, development for neighborhoods, for buildings, plazas, for population, for humans. That's what you're stating? Because those numbers.
I'm stating that they're taking up more land and territory, and one of the largest causes of deforestation is the expansion of animal ag.
You realize that the expansion of animal ag is extremely slow and is already pretty existent in comparison to the development of homes and businesses and areas growing in population because of people. It's not new animal farms and new production of animals that are cutting down new forests.
Okay, so John, so with all these people, they're going to want to eat animals. So what do you think is going to happen to the animal supply? Do you think it's going to go up or down?
These people already eat animals.
Do you think those animals, each animal needs to be fed? So that means the land to feed those animals is also going to be expanded. Did you know it currently takes up 83% of our current ag land?
But you do understand that the people that we're talking about moving to new areas are already eating meat.
No. People are having babies. More people,
and people are
right? Population's expanding. That's what you're talking about.
But I'm saying it's a
so
cycle.
We can change our habits. It's a lot easier to tell someone to not eat another sentient being than it is to tell them to not have children.
But
so I'm
here's
telling
the
you,
thing, though.
Why don't we just not use sentient beings anymore?
Here's the thing, though. I say this respectfully, but for me to fully even have a conversation about giving up something that I value greatly in my life,
so did slave owners. Slave owners valued having slaves. They valued it so much that it was their money.
Humans and animals. Are you saying
it's a similar atrocity? It's a similar atrocity of crossing someone's autonomy. It's a similar atrocity of a sentient being being used against their will and having their bodily autonomy violated. It's not the same. We're different beings.
Are you saying humans and animals are equal?
Stop faking your outrage. I don't want to deal with it.
Ma'am, I'm not
okay,
mad.
Clearly,
you're getting
I
mad.
know, because you're trying to say that I'm equating humans with animals. Okay, tell me, what is the moral difference then? What makes it morally okay to stab one but not the other?
Because humans and animals are not on the same page.
Why? Tell me why. What is it? So what?
And rule the earth.
So what? That's called might makes right. If someone bigger and stronger than you wanted to do whatever they wanted to your body, would you tolerate that because might makes right?
Animals don't tolerate it either. They fight back.
So why are you doing it? Then why are you doing it? Why are you being immoral?
Hold on. But
why are you going against your own principles?
Let me ask you a question. You've mentioned the M word. Are you an atheist?
Technically the I word. Yes, but that doesn't matter.
So don't mention that word again.
Immoral.
You
It's
can't
immoral.
mention moral objectivity.
It's immoral.
And be an atheist.
It is subjective. You're right.
But the reason why I brought up that if he really cares about the natural resources, I mean, for an example, a lot of the animal industry and the monocropping that we have to do to support this animal industry, it's now affecting the Great Lakes, guys. Some of our largest bodies of fresh water is now affecting the Great Lakes, and we can see it actually from space. You can see the crops and the animal ag industry running into the Great Lakes now. So that's why I say, if you really value our natural resources and the health for the future of our natural resources, you would be against mass farming of animals because of the cost.
Yes, exactly. There is no reason to not live vegan. Let's say the animals weren't even sentient. The way it is right now, they are a huge pain on the environment, and they give us illness. But the main problem is that they're a sentient being. Just like slavery, that was a being, a human. It was someone experiencing the world, and we were pressing a purpose on them that they didn't choose on their own.
I mean, it's just you're infringing on someone else's right to life, liberty, and like happiness, like quite literally.
Exactly. If you believe in freedom and your autonomy, like why are you infringing on someone else's freedom and autonomy? For sensory pleasure. You even admitted, he even admitted it was for sensory pleasure. It's not for survival. It's not for anything else. It's not necessary. So you're literally just abusing.
I do support pro-choice because I want women to pursue life, liberty, and happiness as well. And their bodily autonomy does matter.
Same. I just love to point out, though, the ones that are forced birthers, they, claim that it's because the being inside is sentient. It's like, well, animals are sentient. We have science that proves it. We can see their behaviors. Like, that's why it's not even a topic. Like, both sides, get out of here. Oh, hey, Keith.
Yeah, this is what I say about intersectionals. Animals always get on deal. And I just want to say what an intersectional is for someone in your audience.
What?
Hi, Keith.
I gotta say, it threw me off there for a second. I'm like, someone take his account?
That was so weird. You invited me, and then I had a background video that I had on.
Oh, that's what it was. I was like,
what is going on?
Happening?
I thought that you just started randomly playing that, and I was like, wait, why is my mic lighting up? That's so weird.
That's hilarious. TikTok is crazy. It's got some crazy things happening. Weird overlays.
Yeah.
All right. Lord Pee Pee Poo Poo. Well, that sounds like an adult. Got to be over 18.
Yeah, I am.
Okay. A very creative name.
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't think of something. Anyway, I don't imagine either of you are religious, as the argument would be quite short and pointless if you were.
I mean, it doesn't matter. There are religious vegans. There are non-religious vegans. It has nothing to do with your religious background.
Well, I mean, the assuming Christianity, the Bible is quite clear that the consumption of animals is permitted, so long as they're not tortured.
Oh, sure. So, have you seen Christspiracy?
No, I haven't heard of it either.
You should check it out because they actually look at the Dead Sea Scrolls and all the original holy texts, and they translate the words. They show you all the definitions of the words. There's some words that have been misinterpreted. Like the den of thieves is actually the den of violent ones because they were selling animals to be sacrificed, and Jesus let all the animals go.
I don't think the problem there would be the animals; it'd be the sacrifice if it was to.
Right, it's unnecessary unaliving, and he was against that. In fact, they find that he also consumed a diet that was. They also looked at his diet. They talk about that in the movie. I just suggest you go see it. It's a great challenge to your beliefs. But that aside, I don't really care. Yeah, I don't really care to talk about specific religions because there is no religion that requires that you use animals. So if I can be Christian and vegan, so can you.
Yeah. It's almost an ascetic thing if you're vegan, which could be, Christ-like. Anyway, yeah.
Well, my point is, you don't have to.
It'll be next. That wasn't all I had. If one is to be secular and we are merely, a higher tier of animal, why would the naturalistic fallacy be fallacious? I recall someone else mentioned something to that effect, like, well, humans are simply, a higher order animal. And therefore,
because you're cherry picking. Right? You're cherry picking. You're looking at some animal behaviors and being like, well, animals do it, so why can't I do it? It's like, well, animals do a lot of things. What justifies
animals
cherry
eat their own
picking
babies and
those
such.
things?
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
but
we,
what?
we don't
Wait,
because
hey, okay, don't talk over me. I want you to listen to what I'm saying. What justifies cherry picking those things and saying the rest of it is wrong because they're animals? You can unmute yourself now. You're muted.
What do you mean by those things? Animals eating their own babies, perhaps?
I mean, any immoral act that an animal does, there's a lot of things they do to each other. Because they're not moral agents. They're out there and surviving a harsh environment, you know? They don't have the time, the luxury that we do to weigh out rights and wrongs.
Or they don't have the capability to.
Some of them, but some do. Like I said, I just don't think they have the time to do that. They're always surviving. They're always having to replenish their energy source and protect themselves from threat. That's why we live in houses.
Which animals would you say have the faculties to create moral reasoning?
A lot of primates, dolphins, elephants, whales.
What kind of proof of that is there? I haven't heard anything of that. I've only heard that monkeys,
I mean, you can go look up these studies. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how intelligent, if someone can reciprocate morality. You know, humans, we have a lot of humans that vary in their intelligence. They're still sentient beings, and so we protect them.
I think
right, but that doesn't matter. Human is like saying, I'm white, they're black. You know, it's just a name. It really means, what does human mean? What is the moral difference that makes it okay to stab an animal, but not a human?
Yeah, that's something that came up a lot with other...
A cut feels the same to us. It hurts. We don't like it. We avoid it. So why, if we don't want that done to us, do we do that to another being that feels the same pain?
Yeah, that's something that came up a lot with other, whatever you call the guests. And none of them answered it. It's because humanity has a unique status, particularly among other humans, including of other races, you know, the black, white, still humans, different maybe subtypes or whatever you may call it. But humanity.
No subtypes.
And should we not, maybe it would be in a simply natural way, but, you know, that's not of my belief.
Wait, I don't know if I understood that. Can you restate that?
So if, you know, a lot of people said, you know, because they're essentially your argument is assuming that all sentience ought to be regarded as equal. You know, the dog, you know, maybe a dog isn't
not equal, just
case,
considered.
But, you know, a cow.
Hold on. It's not equal. It's just to be considered. You need to consider that somebody is experiencing the world before you invade their world, before you cross their autonomy. And you need to ask yourself, do I have the right to do that?
Well, you know, yes, for I'd say two reasons. One, the one that's sort of not but pointless to mention the religious, it says so. But in a sort of natural way, we are essentially
no religion justifies crossing someone's bodily autonomy without their consent.
But it says it's permitted.
No, but that doesn't matter. No, but that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Most religions, in fact, talk about being kind to animals, not using them when you don't need to. So even in that regard, you're supposed to limit as much as possible. But I would argue, like, what is the purpose of even using them if God gave them the same nerve endings as us? They also have a brain. They're making preferences on their experiences. You're muted, by the way.
Yeah, I don't remember when I was muted. Well, okay. You know, I'm sure at some point there's an invisible hand sort of thing. They have to have nerve endings. They have to have survival instinct to exist naturally.
Why not? Why weren't? If you believe in a God, why did He make them run away? Why didn't He make animals like plants so that they just kind of were there
they must
and
exist
existed
naturally? Also, and for that to be true, they have
plants don't run away though, and God made plants.
Yeah, because they're like lower order. They're different organisms completely.
So again, why not make the animals like that?
Because they're of a higher order than plants. They are more complex organisms than plants.
They feel pain,
he's omnipotent. He could do literally anything. There's no reason.
Yes, but this world has like rules,
needlessly cause pain.
Even should one believe, he made this world with rules and such. Animals, plants, they have to exist within them. Like, a plant is rooted. It doesn't. Well, maybe it has
Right,
some
but
kind of nerve.
he can literally guide the rules however he wants them to be if he's
But he didn't.
omniscient. Like,
And we can know that to be true because the way things are the way they are. Animals run away because they have.
I'm aware
sentience
that's
and-
how they are, but this supposedly loving God has the capacity to, have this supposed food source not have to involve harm, and he could have just done that, but instead he made them sentient. He made them be able to experience pain, emotions, all these different
theological
things.
argument. But the world is a hard place. There's pain and suffering, this and that. Of
Yeah,
course,
but
whatever.
okay, why is it wrong for humans to inflict suffering on another human? Why is that wrong?
Because humans have an innate value that animals do not.
They have an innate value. What is that?
Well, then it sort of begs a religious question of a soul. Humans are unique to have that.
You can't prove that there's a soul, but you can show that
Yeah.
there's sentience. We are sentient. We are making preferences on our experiences.
It becomes so arbitrary too when you start exploring more than just one religion, because
could be sentient, maybe.
we could discuss Buddhism, Jainism, Hinduism, any number of religions that have like merit where they offer like essentially souls to animals. So in your religion that says it's not there, and then this religion says it's there. It just becomes absolutely arbitrary when we start discussing religion as the
to my understanding, Hindus still eat chickens. Cows are just a unique case. I don't really know too much about Hinduism. But
It doesn't matter. No religion justifies
Yeah,
violating someone's autonomy. I don't care what your religion
say
is.
someone, exactly. That's actually- I noticed that a few times.
Hold on. I could have a book. I could have my own text. My God says that I can enslave human men. Does that make my enslavement of them moral because my text says so? I'm absolved of the immorality of enslaving another living being?
Well, in saying your book, no, because it's not an authority at anything.
It's my authority. It's my God.
Omnipotent and
It's
benevolent
my
being
God.
said something to be true, then it is. It wouldn't be
So
if yours.
it is moral. Are you saying it is moral because my God said so?
No, you're almost, I would think, intentionally misinterpreting what I'm saying. I'm saying obviously yours wouldn't be moral.
Why?
Because the book you wrote was written by you.
Who
for
says it
whatever
was
reason.
written by me? It wasn't written by me. It's written by my God.
Yeah, this is like an ancient retarded argument, I'd say.
Ooh,
like if the Bible said the opposite of everything it said, would it still be?
Goodbye. I don't talk to people that.
bro.
Yeah, right. Like super Christ-like. Ugh. I don't tolerate ableism. Get out of here. No religion justifies using someone. I'm not going to accept that your religion says that you can dominate me. Go ahead, Roby. Are you over 18?
Yeah.
What makes it morally acceptable for you to use animals?
Well, I feel like that's a kind of difficult question to be asking people, because it's not what makes it right for me to do it.
Yeah, you
More
specifically.
than what makes it right for all of humanity to do it. Okay.
Oh, I'm asking you.
So
you.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say that you need certain proteins and fibers from animals. Yes, to keep
You can
your
get
body
You can get
alive.
everything from plants. You can get everything from plants.
Yeah, animals don't provide fiber,
Technically-
by the way. That's
technically.
specifically from plants.
That's true.
Aren't
So,
there
Roby, if
certain
I can
things
get
that
everything,
you are needing
Roby,
to eat and
Roby, if I can get everything from plants, then there's no point in using animals other than my sensory pleasure. So we're taking someone's only existence for sensory pleasure. You're muted.
So can I ask, what's the point of allowing me to argue if you're going to talk over me and mute?
Oh, I don't want to hear talking for long periods of time over top of each other. I want you to actually listen to what's being told to you, because you're literally defending using a sentient being without their consent.
Because it's not sentient. And if it was sentient,
Do you know what sentient means?
It would
What
be
does sentience mean? What? That's
What does sentience
sapience.
mean?
That's sapience. You're confusing sapience and sentience.
No.
Sentience is binary. Yes.
Sentience
Go
would be
look
it
up what
has the right
sentience
to,
is. I can't hear you though when you step out. It's fine if you want to go look up the definition. I'm only going to give you, I don't know, like 20 seconds.
No, it's because I was just saying,
Sentience means someone is having a subjective experience of the world. They are then weighing out those experiences and deciding if they like them or not. I prefer to be comfortable. I don't prefer to be uncomfortable. That's
okay,
what sentience means.
Is an animal telling you that?
That doesn't
Can I
matter.
also
That's
ask
what
you this?
sentience
Do animals
is.
have their ways of talking to
Yeah, I
each
mean,
other?
does a mute human or a human that has mental cognition difficulties where they lack the mental awareness or capacity to speak? Do either of these people now suddenly are they not sentient because they can't communicate?
No, because we have literal proof that they are.
Right, and we have proof in animal behavior science that animals are also sentient.
Are animals writing?
Are they what?
Again, you're
Are they writing?
confusing sapience and sentience. You're confusing sapience
No, I
and
literally
sentience.
just searched up that.
What is sapience?
Sapiens?
Yeah.
All right, I don't know, but I'm telling you, I just searched up.
It's
the
basically
definition
you're
of
thinking
sentience.
about
Sentience,
sapience is
like you're saying.
Sapience
Sentience.
is like, would you stop for a second and just listen? This is what I was talking about and why I mute you. Sapience is basically thinking about thinking. You're aware of yourself and you're aware of your thoughts. Sentience is just existing and experiencing the world and making preferences on those experiences. I prefer to be more comfortable. I don't want to be uncomfortable. That's what sentience means. It's a binary thing. Sapience has degrees to it. Some are more aware of themselves than others. Yes, I agree. Not all animals are sapient, but all animals are sentient, which is all that matters. They can feel pain and they can feel joy. And, if that's the case, then why do you have the right to inflict the suffering and sorrow on them, the pain? Why do you get to do that to them? You can unmute yourself.
How?
How what?
Oh, I was gonna say, how do you unmute?
Oh, yeah, gotta tap the microphone.
Oh gosh.
So what gives you the right to use animals when they can feel pain?
What gives me a right to inflict pain to them?
Well, any kind of use at all. What makes it okay for you to put your purpose on someone who is having an experience without their consent?
Okay. Now, let's go back to the question.
No. I asked you a question. I want you to
I'm
answer
gonna answer
it.
your question, but I'm just.
Well, answer it
thinking
then.
for a second, okay, God.
Okay, that's fine. You can think about it, but don't pivot.
I'm not. I was talking to myself. I do that often when I think.
Have you seen the movie Dominion? Maybe you should go watch that and then come back.
No, I have not, but I don't think
You
I
can
will.
go watch the first 30 minutes of it and then tell me if your mind has changed at all. Because even if you go by the nice labels of humane, grass-fed, cage-free, you should still see what you're demanding and what those animals have to go through, even in those scenarios.
Honestly, let's put it this way.
Yes.
If you are to think God has a thing saying
Roby, I'm really sorry. I'm gonna move along. You just need to go do research. Go watch Dominion. Maybe look up these resources. Take a screenshot. I just don't think you're prepared. Marcus, I've seen you there for a minute. You gotta be over 18.
No, I'm good. I'm 26.
Okay. What makes it morally acceptable for you to use animals?
I need to back up because I just think in general, we've really lost our connection with nature as a whole. And just the same way that different animals like mantis shrimp can see different colors that we can't even conceive of. I really do believe that plants are another form of consciousness and they are sentient, but we can't really empathize with that or
Okay,
comprehend
so
it.
what are you doing? What are you doing to reduce plant harm?
I'm not necessarily. I'm just saying.
Okay, so then
You
why are you
asked
bringing up this
the original question was why do I think it's moral to eat animals? And I'm saying
to use animals in any fashion?
yeah, that's kind of my point. It's I look at all living creatures as having sentience, essentially.
Okay,
And
so
even
do you believe that you should decrease your harm then?
yeah, just the same way that
Do you know that we
yeah.
feed most plants to the animals that you're using?
Yeah.
So we're feeding more of these sentient plants to animals to then be eaten. So you're increasing your harm. Do you see?
Yeah.
If we didn't have
but
those
I
animals,
think it goes
we
back
would
to
reduce.
the
If we didn't use animals, we would reduce our land use by 75%. That's so much fewer plants being grown. So if you really believe that we should reduce our harm, then you should be vegan because you're subjecting all these plants to more harm than necessary. You're breeding so many plants into
I think
existence.
it goes back to the law of equal give and take in general is how we
How is that equal? You can just eat the
please
plants
let me
directly. We're
let me
losing
explain.
energy each time too. You only get 10% of the energy from the animal.
Well, you could argue the massive amount of water usage it takes to grow plants.
Oh my
as
God!
well
Are you
is,
kidding me? You have to give the cows water. You have
Yeah.
to clean the places that they live.
Okay,
They use so much
going
water.
back to my
They use
original
more
point,
water than any plant milk.
Going back to how I began this, I do think there is a disorder in the law of equal give and take across the spectrum, especially like
before we move
with
forward
animals.
with that, I would like to say, can we go back to the water point? Because you're just blatantly wrong that it takes more water to grow plants than to consume animals. Can we acknowledge that you were wrong about that?
Sure. Yeah, let's just get past that. But I would argue that the Midwestern basin that it contains more water or used to than all the Great Lakes combined is drying up across Central America.
Yeah,
and
to
in
produce 1 calorie
Kazakhstan
of
as well.
animal protein.
In Kazakhstan as
To
well.
produce 1 calorie of
Hold on, Marcus.
animal protein requires 10 times more water than, say, for that amount of calories from, say, like legumes.
Okay.
So,
well, I want to
like, if
go
we're
back
worried
to
about water usage, like alfalfa, especially growing alfalfa and other grasses for livestock is one of the leading drivers of that lake that you're referring to. I'm
not disagreeing with you guys that
Then
the
you should-
meat industry is
So the whole question is, why do you have the moral right to use animals?
because I think they are another form of consciousness, but we are disrespecting it because we're not as connected with nature as we used to be. There's no law of equal give and take.
So then why do you still use them?
Because I have a lot of uses for them the same way that I have uses for plants.
We have a lot of uses for slaves, but that's still immoral and we frown upon it. We tell people to stop.
Yeah, exactly, because they're sentient as well. I think the difference is our level in ability to empathize with them.
So why don't we enslave like humans that don't have their full cognitive ability?
I want to go back to the consciousness of plants as well.
I asked you a question. I asked you a question. Why don't we use humans that are not of the same cognition? They're not to their full cognition levels.
Because we're able to empathize with them very easily.
What are we empathizing in there? That they're a living being, right? That they're sentient, that they're experiencing the world, no matter if it's arbitrary or not. They're still experiencing the world and making preferences, and they prefer to feel comfortable.
I think plants can be very sentient as well. When you look at the studies of mycelium and forests.
Marcus, it's a disingenuous argument because if you care about plant sentience, you're using more of them to make animals to use. So it's a stupid argument. So stop making it. It doesn't matter. We would make fewer crops die if we lived in a vegan world. I don't know if you heard me, 75% less ag land. So we would feed more than our population on 25% of our ag land. No more animals. Right now, there's 8 billion humans. And some of us are starving because countries are focusing on growing grains to fatten animals up for the West. If we just focused on plant and we... Go ahead, Keith. Sorry, I'm yapping.
I was going to say, like, we've had, like, large-scale studies on this specific topic. Like, we have the Epic Oxford study. We have the recent IPCC study, which, you know, they basically were doing, like, the biggest assessment of the environmental issues going on in the world right now. And when they were looking at the dietary sector, that's, like, why they have their statement that one of the biggest, if not the biggest thing an individual can do very easily to contribute, because, like, yeah, obviously someone could go plant like 1 million trees and that would probably potentially have like a bigger impact. But in terms of like an easy thing for anyone to do to have a massive impact on the environment, the biggest thing that you could do in that sector would just be to go at least plant-based. If you're not going vegan, the least you could do is go plant-based.
Yeah. You're muted, Mark. Marcus? You're muted.
Tap the microphone button in the bottom middle.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think a solution to that too that would help a lot would be making like entire skyscrapers in cities that could be farms as well. Because there is a lot of problems with the amount of land we do use and the amount of forest we do tear down that destroy different environments. So it's a lot more complex of an argument.
I have no problem with like plants being grown indoors. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, vertical gardening, hell yes. I'm all
I think
for it,
there's a lot of different problems throughout the way we produce and consume food in general. And it's not as simple as just everybody
well,
just
I'm not here talking about food though. I'm here talking about sentient beings. Because
yeah, and you asked me the moral reason, and I'm saying I don't morally have a problem with it because I believe that the plants that I'm eating are a sentient form that we can't really empathize with, but they are sentient.
Do you really think that plants are sentient like animals?
Yeah, you can look at.
Why don't
there's
they
a good
run
article.
Then? Why don't they run? Because evolution.
Well, okay, can I explain,
made it
please?
so that evolution made it so that things that don't want to be harmed, they moved away. Plants, they were able to evolve. It didn't matter if they were eaten. Yes, they respond to stimuli. They send signals, but that's it. They're not sentient. They don't have a brain. They don't have a central nervous system. They don't have a ganglia. Name one study. Name one study.
Sure. There's good articles on it with.
No. I don't want articles.
No.
I want a study. I want science. Okay,
you
well,
just
send
asked
me the
me for a
articles.
study.
Fine.
I'm giving you a study. What do you want?
You said articles. I want to know a scientific, rigorous study that has been peer-reviewed that says plants are sentient.
So on nautilus.us, you can look up new research that is being done, how plants communicate with each other.
I want the name of the study. I want you to give me the name of the study.
Right.
This is your
Give me a
belief
second.
that you have to defend. Plants are not sentient. Even the studies that are looking at plants with the open-mindedness that plants might be sentient, they still conclude that there is no evidence that plants are sentient.
I mean, if you want a recent
you're kind of
study,
just using
like
Occam's razor, trying to cut down anything I'm trying to say to you. I'm trying to explain my position.
I do need evidence.
Oh, you can't give a study. You're wrong.
To see evidence that plants are sentient.
I'm trying to give you information that has been coming out. If you would listen, please.
Okay, it doesn't matter because I asked you, what are you doing about this plant suffering?
So
if
just
you care
Occam's
about
razor. It doesn't matter what I think. Yeah, I'm trying to give you an answer.
I really want you to have a true, honest discussion with me. So I want to know, why do you think
I'm
it's
trying
okay
to explain to you why I think.
I want to know why you think it's okay to cause someone who has nose susceptors. We know for a fact that animals feel pain. They have the same nociceptors. Look up the word nociceptors, okay? It's the same nerve endings. We know that animals feel it. Plants, guess what? They don't have those nerve endings, okay? So that's why I need you to provide me a study to back up your BS, because otherwise you can say anything you want.
Okay, well, you can look at fish, for example. They don't have certain receptors that makes them go into shock.
Fish have nociceptors. They
Okay,
are
well, there's a
sentient.
reason why they can have giant chunks taken out of them and
Do you
still
want
survive.
to? Do you want a study on fish? I have a study on fish being sentient. Do you want that?
I would rather go back to plants so I can explain my position and why I think they're
I
sentient.
need you to tell me the name of a study. I was about to give you the name
Will
of a
you let
study.
me?
If you,
Will you let me?
yeah, give me. I don't want an article. I don't want a
So,
website.
there's a study
I
called
want the
Dvortson.
name. The
Dvortson?
Wurtzen?
Hang on. D, the German D, W, U, R,
it means
Z,
the. It
E,
means
L.
the. It means the. Yeah.
Der Welt. And this is a German woman that's been looking into the research of how plants can potentially see.
No, oh wait. So is it just a person?
No,
I don't
that's
care
the
about
name.
a person.
That's the
I
name of
want
her
a
book.
study.
That's the name of
I
her
don't want
book
a
that
book.
she.
I want a study.
What the
I
hell
don't
do
care
you
about someone's
want?
opinion. I don't care about someone's opinion. I
A
want
study
a
is an
study.
opinion. It's based on a
No,
hypothesis,
it's not.
and she wrote a
It's-
book on
Do
it.
you not know what science is?
Asking for
I'm embarrassed for you
peer-reviewed
right
evidence.
now.
Peer-reviewed evidence, not a book, not an article, not an
Not a
opinion
person.
paper. Peer-reviewed evidence. Yeah, not a person. The person can perform a study. You could include the study she performed. That would do it.
Yeah, I can't
But that's
find
what we're
anything.
after. Not
I might have
also,
misspelled
even
it.
if like it was like a capacity to see or whatever, like this baseline rudimentary capacity for sight that you're referring to, even if that was the case, that wouldn't be like still like anything to do with consciousness or awareness. That's just another potential intrinsic response to stimuli. Like you need to have like evidence of subjective awareness, you know, generally some kind of nervous system of some kind, a central computing unit of some kind, like, yeah, typically a brain, but you could also have like a cerebral ganglia.
Kind of ganglia. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You could have any number of other things.
I want you to name the study. Like I have information to give you if you wanted to know where to look to know if plants are sentient. I just have to open my drive.
Yeah, I mean, just go look up the study debunking a myth, plant consciousness. Read that entire study and see if you still hold the same logic, because I doubt you would by the time you finish that study.
I mean, if someone actually discovered plant sentience, they're going to be like all over the news.
Yeah,
it's like a big deal.
Probably get an award of some sort.
Yeah, I mean, you would immediately get a Nobel Peace Prize. This would be a massive undertaking. Like we've been studying the capacity for potential sentience in plants. We've been studying the capacity for potential sentience in plants since Charles Darwin's book, The Movement of Plants. We've been trying to figure it out for like more than 200 years. We had what's his face, the Cleaver dude. I can't remember his full name, but he was a scientist in the 60s who connected plants to lie detector tests, stenographer or whatever the hell you call it, and he made the statement of like, oh, if you go to this plant and you have like a thought of like inflicting pain on the plant, or like you threaten the plant with harm, the plant will respond and blah blah blah. And we've had like countless scientists try to recreate that work. It's not something that can be recreated because he either misunderstood the data, didn't know what he was doing, or something in between. And then the only other like stuff that we get into the realm of is like response to stimuli, or like baseline things that occur in all like cellular structures, like the recent like, oh, tomato plants scream. Like, no, that was air bubbles in the cavitations between cellular structures popping, and that obviously makes a microscopic noise. It's not like the plant is consciously going, ah. It's literally why they don't say at the end of that paper that, oh, tomato plants are conscious. We figured it out, guys. Like, it's not a thing.
Exactly. And as far as fish, I have a, oh, go ahead, Lydia. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Marcus, do you have a study? Are you willing to share now before we move on? Are you still there?
I see that you're back. You're muted, though. The little microphone in the middle. There you go.
All right. There's a study called Building Bridges, Mycelium Mediated Plant Electrophysiological Communication.
What was it called?
And
Building what?
Where I leave off? Mycelium Mediated Plant Electrophysiological Communication.
Well, I might look that up. It's a long title. So is it just about...
Is this about the Japanese thing with like them producing like train tracks using like mycelium?
No, that's with slime molds. This is basically the fact that they're finding throughout forests, between the mycelium, the plants are interacting with each other and form a certain type of brain using those mycelium. I mean, you can look at
It literally says brain? Or does it say just a bunch of connections?
You're trying to pull certain words out of my argument.
Because a brain is an organ. A brain is an organ, and I want us to be clear.
As a collective, these plants do form what can be considered
Marcus,
a brain.
If these mushrooms... Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I was going to say, so while the study reveals sophisticated signaling and response mechanisms, it does not provide evidence that plants or mycelium possess consciousness. Consciousness generally involves subjective experience, awareness, and the ability to have thoughts or emotions.
I think the entire idea of consciousness
described in the study are biochemical and electrical responses rather than indicators of conscious awareness. So no, the study did not prove consciousness. It's not winning a Nobel Peace Prize.
From our perspective, but I genuinely think that consciousness itself can be subjective. I mean, how do you define what consciousness is?
That's fine that you feel that way. Science has tests to show if something is sentient or not versus just little mechanisms. Hence why people are doing these very studies.
Well, how do you define sentience? Is it just based on human experience? I mean, there's so much more to this world outside of ourselves.
I mean, the conclusion in the study you provided really did a great summary of what consciousness is. They actually defined it. And that's sentience. It's the ability to feel pain, have a sense of like awareness of self in a sense, to be able to react to stimuli. Plants to our knowledge, yes, they're intelligent. They're able to communicate much like our computers and phones, etc. But they're still not the sentience behind that can like produce suffering and
not like ours. I don't think. I think they are living in a different.
That's why we're saying that it's just plants to our knowledge are not sentient, but we know for a fact the animals we use are. So
I think us as human beings have to humble ourselves when it comes to what consciousness is.
What we should do as human beings is err on the side of caution, right? You could even have some stipulation in your mindset. You believe that like this XYZ plant could be sentient or conscious or whatever. But irregardless of that, if you were worried about consciousness and sentience in plants, you would still want to overwhelmingly have your diet be plant-based because, again, like she already went over, like the majority of the plants that we are producing to, be utilized are being used in the animal agriculture sector. Secondly, I mean, even from this standpoint, like the consumption of plants, like we are, for the most part, we are consuming fruiting bodies. The plant is not harmed. These are perennial plants that produce fruiting bodies that we then consume, at some point. And, they willingly drop it from their leaf, or from their stems and whatnot, or from their branches. Like we acquire the fruiting body that way. There's no harm happening to the plant to do this. And then on the other side, we have annual plants who are like, we're looking at like soy and other legumes and things like this, where the plant produces a stalk, it grows up, it produces its, fruiting bodies or whatever it is that we're going to consume from that plant. and then it essentially perishes before we even extract the plant from the ground to then consume its the nutrients that it produced. Like we're not like going and consuming majority perennial plants. You could be a plant sentient vegan awareness person or whatever the hell you want to call that, but you would just avoid consuming perennial plants. Like that's all you would have to do, which makes it like less
argue,
than 5%.
Look at the example of like a wild cacao tree and a domesticated one. One is being domesticated, and under your definition, if you were to agree with me that their consciousness, they're being manipulated or
well, we're
used against their will and not living a very
we're
substantial
again
life.
operating under what is like practical and possible.
Right.
Like we're not going to be able to feed 8 billion people off of not farming ever. We do have to have some level of farming for us to feed both us or animals, or both or whatever. Like regardless, some form of farming has to take place. So when that is the truth that we're dealing with,
you're right.
Well, yeah, not I would not agree with that on the plant side, but yeah, like to animals, absolutely. Like, and that would be the point. Like, if we wanted a way in which we could reduce the amount of harm being caused by farming or whatever, then we would still want to go plant agriculture side. Like, 90% of all deforestation essentially comes from land use change, and the leading driver of land use change is animal agriculture. And of like the main impacts on that, I think it's about like 70-80% of those impacts of the deforestation that is happening is from animal agriculture, both like the land that we rear them on, as well as the crops that we're producing for them. So if we're worried about invading on native, habitats, both the like plants and the animals that are living there, if we're worried about causing excess harm that doesn't need to happen, whether it's for, fungi, plants, or animals, or anything in between, like we would still want to absolutely be fully plant-based. Like that is our best route to reduce all of these harms that you're considering.
Yeah. I would argue also with hunting, my main
You're muted right now, Stoner.
I want to know why you think it's okay for you to poke animals and but not poke humans. We've been talking way too much about plant sentience. I want to know why you think human slavery is wrong, but animal slavery is okay. We're all just sentient living beings. Mark, you're also muted. Yeah. There you go. So what is the difference that's okay to enslave animals but not enslave humans?
The level of empathy that we can consider.
Why don't we do that to humans that can't reciprocate any kind of emotion or whatever? Why don't we do that to the humans that are like that?
It's illegal.
Why is it illegal? Why is it illegal?
Because
people came together and decided it was immoral, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Because they care about that being, because that being is having an experience, even if it's not to the same level as us. So what makes it okay to poke animals with sharp objects but not that human?
One is for a resource base, and
we can get resources off of the human.
Yeah, you could.
Okay, so I'm asking you, what is the moral difference? Why is it okay for you to use animals?
There isn't much, but you
not
gotta
okay
realize.
To use human?
You gotta
so
realize
that's what I'm
my
pointing out,
position.
Marcus. That's what I'm talking about. Do you understand my position? I'm saying you're enslaving someone for pleasure.
I think you're trying to use the Occam's razor argument for a very complicated subject.
No, I'm pointing out that animals are sentient just like you. They feel pain. They don't like it. They want to live just like you.
I think plants do too.
Okay, but you think that that humans and animals are closer than humans and plants, right?
Because we can empathize with that because they have a similar form
Right,
of
because we
consciousness.
can clearly see that they're conscious. Yes. So why are
But in
you
my
inflicting
opinion, plants'
suffering on a
consciousness is
clear? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Why are
it's
you
just as
inflicting? It
inconceivable as a
doesn't matter.
mantis shrimp seeing other colors. I mean,
It
are you
doesn't
going to tell a
matter.
mantis shrimp those colors don't
No,
exist?
I'm talking to you, Marcus. I'm talking to you. What right do you have to use someone that can suffer and feel joy? What right do you have to force your purpose on them?
I don't, but you already know my position.
Yes, you don't have the right. So, what can you do to live in alignment with your principles? Because you agree it's immoral.
If I'm gonna eat meat, I would rather hunt it, which I do, and
No,
have
that's not what I'm
sustainable
asking you.
farming.
Why are you inflicting suffering on a being that doesn't deserve it, that has
I'm
done
not.
nothing to you?
I mean, I'm very
Yes, you are. You're
grateful for
stealing
their
some.
sacrifice.
Why don't you do it then? Why don't you do it to humans that are not of the same cognition level?
Well, you could argue that you're doing it because you're using a lithium phone and people are suffering for your phone.
How
So why are you
often
using a
do you
phone?
buy electronics versus how often do you abuse or exploit animals? If you agree that buying a phone,
I mean, I
that
use
you
my
know,
phone every day.
if you agree that buying a phone that you know was made from slave labor is immoral, then you agree that using animals without their consent is also immoral, and it's a direct support. It's a direct support.
You are justifying slavery in the Congo
Marcus.
by using a lithium phone. You see how this works?
No, I'm not.
Yes,
no,
you
Marcus,
are. By this
stop.
argument, yes,
Marcus,
you
do you agree that human slavery is immoral?
are. Yes.
Oh, is it and why? Is it because they're a living being that deserves to be free?
Yes, I also
Then
believe
why are
plants
you
should be
using
free.
animals?
Plants thrive
why
in
are
nature better
you
than on
using
farms.
animals? Why are you using animals?
Why are you making plants into GMOs and sucking
Why
out their
are you
nutrients?
using animals? You can't even answer
You're
the question.
using plants.
All right, Marcus, you have a great day. Go
All those
watch
things you
Dominion.
could do without that. Like, it's not a requirement of the practice. Like, you know, we could absolutely have more ethical approaches for producing phones. Like, anyone recommending, like, we want options, like, go purchase the fair phone. Like, if you wanted to have something that's more sustainable and tries to avoid those kinds of practices you were talking about, we have options that exist. So congratulations, go do that. And then on the side of, like, oh, using plants, like, if you're worried about GMOs, then don't buy those kinds of plants if that's what you're concerned about. These are just all deflections.
Yeah, exactly. I just got tired. I don't want to entertain people too long.
At that point, he was just being disingenuous. It wasn't.
Oh, he was. Especially for how long he fought that plants are sentient, but yet he doesn't care that most of them are being fed to animals. Then why are you bringing up their sentience? I know, but it's like, even if they were, like, so what are you arguing? Are you arguing that we need to take plants' experiences and interests, we need to take moral consideration of that? Like, you're not doing that.
And
if
it's
anything,
crazy
vegans do.
He wants such detailed studies about proving plant sentience and really wants to hyper focus on that when we have more overwhelming data to show that all the animals he's consuming, chicken, pigs, cows, ducks, turkeys, whatever, they are in fact highly sentient and also highly intelligent as well.
And I gave him the route too, where he could like do this. Like he could consume again only fruiting bodies, never perennial plants, only annual plants. Like you could do this and still be this like ethical, don't harm plants ever person, whatever. But like it's not like imperative that he has to consume, you know.
Right. Well, and we're not
only
against
perennial plants or whatever. That's just crazy.
Right. Well, and I don't. What part of the plant is even
the only
being
like common perennial plant we even eat is asparagus. Like that's it. Like there's maybe a couple more, but like that's the only one.
Yeah, I just hate the argument altogether. I just, unless they tell me their solution to plant suffering, you know, it's like then why are you bringing this argument up? Anyway, let's see. Let me look at the time. Where are we at? Go ahead. I didn't know who was speaking up. Oh, okay. I thought someone was going to say something.
Oh, no.
Oh. All right, I'll bring you up, Andy. I don't like having too many vegans on. I just feel like it might
I only
become
want to join for 1 minute
intimidating.
just to add on to what you're
Okay.
saying, and I just jump down. So the next time that you get someone like that, that's just a pain in the arse and obnoxious. Obviously, if we talk about food, they're always going to say there's a necessity for it somewhere. Ask them what the necessity is to mow grass. There isn't one. There never will be one. And if they care about plant sentience, I'm assuming that's where they're going to begin, because there's going to be a necessity for all the other uses, right? But when it comes to like your lawn or your fucking golf course, that's where you start your protests.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that's
I
where
don't
you,
think
yeah. If you talk about food, they'll always get you on some sort of necessity, right? But yeah, when we talk about mowing the grass or making like an ornament garden or any of that stuff, then yeah, that's where your concern would absolutely start.
Yep.
No, you're doing fine. I just literally wanted to add that because I was screaming about it.
Oh, I mean, I'm fine if you're up here for a bit. I just typically I won't have.
Shoot, but I just wanted to say hi and add that. But no.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
See you later.
See ya. I mean, I do feel like we kind of still made that argument, not so much about grass, but we talked about the crop death, or the crops being used to feed the animals. And it's like the volume of the sentient beings.
Yeah.
Didn't phase them.
He'll be like, "What are you talking? I'm out there picketing every golf course in America. What are you talking?"
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh, exactly. All those poor sentient blades of grass.
Yeah. We've gone too far.
Doe? What have we done? Is it Doe? I can't really read it because it's cursive. Chloe?
It's Chloe.
Hey, Chloe. Are you over 18?
I'm 19 years old.
Okay. What makes it morally acceptable for you to use animals?
I just think it's right. Like, my dad lived on a farm for years, and I got to go visit it for years on end, and I thought it was pretty cool.
I grew up on a farm and actually was involved in a lot of the butchering practices, and it was definitely not cool. It was actually incredibly traumatizing for me as a kid.
Okay, so you and I are very different.
Do what?
I said, okay, so you and I are very different.
Well, I don't think you were involved in actually, stringing them up, slicing their throats, and pulling off their skin. If you think it's just wonderful, like butterflies and happy things happening.
I've been to a butcher house. I know how it is.
She's saying, did you do those things? She did those things day in and day out, basically, is what she's talking about.
No, I didn't do those things, but I got to watch.
Okay, did it feel good to watch? Oh, sorry, Lydia.
Yeah, so just watching and, watching from the sidelines is very, very different than actually having to raise the animal yourself, bond with this animal, take care of them, and then you suddenly have to have a knife across their neck.
My dad had to do it, and he's still fine with consuming animals. So, I mean, not everybody's the same. My question is,
my dad is too, but he also suffers from a lot of very serious issues as far as domestic abuse in his family. Hold on.
My dad was abused as well, so I know where this is coming from.
Right, so there's actual psychological issues. I mean, my dad was probably killing animals for almost 80 years, and he has very serious psychological issues because of that. He doesn't value animals as much as I do. I mean, he's fine with just walking off a dog into the woods and shooting them to get rid of them.
Yeah, my dad's not like that. No, he hasn't.
Right, but at least my dad's kind of morally consistent. An animal's just an animal, and they can dispose of them as well. Like a dog, there's nothing super special. I mean, at least my dad isn't hypocritical in that sense because he just has seen so many animals being alive for so long. It's just kind of become abrasive about it and just kind of desensitized. And that's something that happens to a lot of people, and it ends up affecting them long term, especially.
Yeah, well,
So I guess what I want to ask you is, do you agree that animals are sentient?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Do you know what sentience means?
No, I don't really do it.
Okay, that's fine. It just means that they're having a subjective experience, and those experiences they're making preferences on. I like to be comfortable. I don't like to be uncomfortable. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you agree that you can thrive eating just plants?
No. I can never.
Do you know what it is that you need from animals that you can't get from plants?
I don't, other than the fact that I have tried vegan food before and it is absolutely disgusting.
Okay. What vegan foods have you tried?
I've tried chicken, beef, and I've tried steak.
Have you ever tried beans, an apple, any
Well, yeah,
vegetable
like
ever? Okay.
fruits and
Well, those
vegetables I
things
can
are
eat.
those are also vegan. Those are also vegan. You don't have to eat the the vegan meats or whatever. You don't have to eat those. The only thing that I eat is tempeh now, and tofu. You don't have to eat those things either, but those are my replacements. Some
I
people
mean,
just use beans. You can use seitan from home if you wanted to. It doesn't really matter your taste pleasure though. Let's say vegan food does taste like 75% as good as animal-based foods. Does that taste pleasure justify taking the life of someone who is having experiences of the world and making preferences on those experiences? Their whole existence is gone just for a small change in taste flavor or taste pleasure.
I never really thought of it because still growing up, I think it's like the best option.
Well, I mean,
Although,
I
like, I know
understand.
for vegans, they say that they live 15 to 20 years longer. I don't want to live that long. I'll be brutally honest. It is cruel living in this world.
I mean, you can be as healthy as you want on a vegan diet. I do occasionally. I was eating more junk food before. I'm transitioning to eating a little healthier now, but you don't have to eat healthy to be vegan. I have these resources here if people want to know, like make sure they get all their nutrients, everything they need, because it's possible. It can feel overwhelming when you don't know how to eat to even begin with, which I didn't when I first went vegan, which made me realize that I was already deficient in things because I wasn't getting certain like vitamins and stuff because I wasn't eating enough fruit. But again, that's totally subjective and up to you if you want to be healthy. There's plenty of junk food stuff out there, and there's recipes on how to make your own junk food if you don't like how they're made. But I guess what I'm just focused on though is the individual, because they're sentient beings that want to be free, and I just want to know why people think it's okay to infringe or put their purpose on somebody else without their consent.
Hold on, sorry. I almost just sneezed. Darn,
I hate it when it's that close and it just burns.
Yes, I had to. Like, I
Yes.
was listening. I'm sorry, but I had to sneeze for a
That's
hot
fine.
second.
Yeah, those burn.
So, I'm not against. Okay, I'm trying not to be like me. I'm not against veganism. I have a friend who is vegan, and I'm perfectly fine with it. How am I trying to put this? Oh my god. So, I did explain that my dad was a farmer for a long time before he moved away. Before my boyfriend moved in with me, he was also a farmer. And I went to his hometown recently and found out that they don't have cows or anything anymore. It's just a big plot of land. And they're not planning on getting animals back for a long time due to his family being in some like difficult problems. My brain just farted.
Maybe just lay out. Maybe just lay out like what would be the holdups from being vegan? Like a list if you had one.
It just honest to God, it probably wouldn't really be for me.
Why is that?
Well, yeah, I'm just trying to get like what are the reasons why?
I couldn't get past like to stop eating animals for some reason, because I guess I've been doing it all my life.
But why? What's the limiting factor there?
There really isn't a main factor.
Okay. Well, I mean, if there's not that you could think of, like, one of the simplest things to do is to just try it. So on the screen is challenge 22. If you don't know, like, when we look at standard psychology, it takes about 21 days of mindful engagement with something to make a change or break a habit. So the idea of challenge 22 is that it's a 3-week plant-based challenge. And ideally, you reach the 22nd day and you go, hey, after doing this for 3 weeks, this actually wasn't so bad. I could keep doing this, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's the essential notion of it. So if there's no like particular reason that you could think of, and it's just like taste pleasure, and that's like the only thing kind of like holding you back now, and like habitual stuff, that's whatever. Like that can be addressed through something like Challenge 22, and just trying things out. Like on the flavor note, like have you ever just had like say like plain boiled chicken?
I have.
It's pretty bland and boring, and you would I'm sure would opt to choose to, not eat it that way, right?
I wouldn't say all the time, but I would say sometimes. Since my
Right, but
family at the time was poor, we didn't have
no,
like proper
yeah, when I
seasonings
when
and
I
stuff like
say
that.
when I say this, I don't mean from like a practical stance of like you might be required to because of like not having funds or something. I just mean from like an enjoyment stance. Like you probably wouldn't just if you're making a meal that involves chicken, you probably wouldn't just make plain boiled chicken and consume that if you have the option to consume something else. So the point I'm making there is if we compare like chicken tikka masala versus tofu tikka masala, the flavor variance between the two is like a minute, like 5 to 10%. There is like some semblance of flavor change you can make, and some level of texture change, which you could account for by instead using like seitan or other products that have like a bit more of like a meatier chew to them or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we're talking about a very minute difference in flavor between these two dishes. Because the overwhelming amount of flavor that you get is the seasoning, the herbs, the spices, the rubs, the method in which you cook. Is it smoked? Is it grilled? Is it pan fried? Whatever it is, like these are the actual things that inherit flavor, not really the base material. Like the base material is what we add flavoring to. It's usually not the big key driver of flavor.
I mean, it's the same if like you guys make vegetables and you want to add seasonings to it because sometimes they can be very bland.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
that's
Exactly.
how I guess that's how I look at it. Like all like food can be bland. If you add at least something to it, it'll make it somewhat better. For
Right.
me, I like to do if I am not in the mood because there are days I'm not in the mood to just eat it all, and I'll eat something small. Um, if we
Yeah.
have leftover rice or broccoli, I put rice and broccoli together. That's all I do.
Oh, I have to take a call. One sec.
Yeah. I love, honestly, a common meal that I eat is rice, beans, and some kind of vegetable. Just because it's really easy. I personally have a rice cooker. We used to just cook it in a pot, but now we have a rice cooker, so it's even easier. So I just throw the water and the rice, hit the button, and walk away, which is really helpful.
I'm never like really in the mood to eat anymore. My boyfriend has to actually get me to eat something, and I think it's just because of the fact. I think it's just because of the fact that anymore, whenever I see food that I've had for over 19 years of my life, I'm just like, I'm not in the mood for that anymore.
Yeah,
so
no, I get that. I don't like to eat the same thing over and over again.
The only thing that I can eat over and over, I know everybody's different. My favorite is pasta. I love pasta.
That's my other meal. That's my other go-to. So I have like rice and beans and veggies, and then my other go-to is pasta because I can get a nice sauce, get the noodles, maybe add my own mushrooms or something if I want to add a little extra. But it's like so easy. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry.
Oh, okay. No, you're fine. It just got really quiet, and sometimes I bumped my headphones, and I didn't want to mute myself.
No, you're okay. Like my
so
go-to, I guess my
Yeah.
go-to recently has been like ramen. I know there's not like any vegan ramen other than.
I mean, it's just a Google search. I'm sure there is. I don't know where you're at. This Challenge 22 here, they actually give you meal plans based off of the restaurants the grocery stores that are around you, and they send you a little thing on like what products you could get to replace certain things. So I don't know if you want to do that. It's a free thing, and it's just email, so you don't actually have to talk to someone daily, but they send you regular emails, and you can ask them questions. And there's also a community of people that are also new to vegan that you would be clumped in with it. You could join a Discord. You guys can communicate about, hey, I'm struggling to find a vegan ramen. Does anybody know a vegan ramen? So it's like a good resource. But it comes down to, you know, you have to want to be vegan. You can't just, I feel like people that just try being vegan just for their taste pleasure, it's good to do it. I want you to still try, but it's more about the animal, you know, like it's more about you don't want them to know or to feel a bullet go into their body or into their head, you know. It's about that you don't want it done to you, so why are you subjecting somebody else to it? You wouldn't tolerate that treatment. Why are you doing it to somebody else?
Yeah.
And if that's how you feel, that's where the vegan diet comes in.
I mean, I could try to give it a shot. I'm not gonna 100% like promise that I'm gonna be like, oh yay, hey guys, I transitioned.
Well, again,
but
it's not for me. It's not for me, right? You need to think about the animals, them themselves. Like when you look at it, do you have a dog? Have you ever had a dog?
I have 2 dogs and I have 2 cats.
If your dad hunted dogs and brought dog meat, would you eat dog meat?
You know, I'm gonna be honest, I'd have to actually think about that one.
That's understandable. But honestly, when
it's only because of the fact that okay, I know like a lot of non-vegans have used the whole, when it comes to the apocalypse type situation, maybe then I'd be like, okay, yeah, sure, but right now the answer would be absolutely not.
And I guess this is a good point to bring up. There is no moral difference between the dogs, the pigs, the cows, etc.
Yes,
You're just conditioned. You're just conditioned to it, and you have to acknowledge your own conditioning and acknowledge that maybe you're so okay with it because of the conditioning you experienced. I had to unpack a lot of conditioning and normalization of brutality, especially coming from a farm background.
Yeah. My grandmother, she had a dog kennel and she raised dogs. She was very aggressive with them. And she honestly, what happens with a lot of these people, like Liddy was pointing out, is that although your dad sounds like an exception, there are statistics that show that people that do this regularly have increased rates of like PTSD, domestic violence. There's usually a lot of psychological issues that come along with taking life regularly. And darn it, I had my point and then I lost it. Anyway, okay, I thought you stepped down for a second. It was just Keith.
No.
We were talking about the dogs. I just wanted to ask you though about the dogs, because I think I just went off on a tangent there and I'm really sorry. But I wanted to ask you, so if the dog situation is like because you need to be forced, right? Yeah. Then you should think about that. Just think about dogs whenever you do look at another animal's flesh or their secretions. Think of a dog being put through the situation that animal had to be in.
I can give it a shot.
I appreciate your honesty. No, there's nothing else you can do. I don't want you. I'm a TikToker, right? I'm on TikTok. I'm just a random person. So yeah, you should, don't take my word for it, but definitely reach out to Challenge 22. That's a great first step. If you do consume animals outside of your dad's hunting, you should watch Dominion, just so that you know what you're demanding. I understand you watched your dad go through the process, but even though he may have done it
we live nowhere near his farm anymore. Like we live about maybe 7.5 hours away. He moved out of it when he was 22, and then everything happened since then.
Well, you said you saw him slaughter the animals. Like, how did it feel to see that?
The butcher,
it's like a big moment.
Okay, sorry. The butcher's the slaughterhouse is about maybe 25 to 30 minutes away from his farm. I was about maybe 13 or 14 when I saw it for the first time.
It's young.
And I'll be honest, I didn't really think much about it.
Okay, so you just saw did you know that animals feel pain and wanted to live back then? Like, you may have been aware of that too, but...
Yeah.
Okay. Do you now maybe wonder why it's okay to do that? Like, why can't we do that? Why can't we do that to like human babies that we know aren't going to make it, but they're outside the womb experiencing life fine, but they're just not going to grow up, or they're not going to have same cognitive abilities.
I'll be honest, yeah, I think about it from time to time. You weren't
Yeah.
like the only vegan that I watch. I watch a couple other vegans, but
Oh, nice. So you're right there. You're right there.
I'll be honest, there's a couple trolls that I do like, that I'm friends with, and they'll go on there and they'll start stuff and it'll make me laugh,
Yeah.
but
Sure.
I think the only reason why I kind of look into it is because there's more like veggie options, and I'm a big veggie head. I've been one since I was a kid, and whenever you guys, like, there's one vegan that always pulls out a recipe book full of like vegan vegetable, like other vegetables and stuff like that, and I'm like, oh hey, I'd like to give that a shot next summer, or hey, that's a new fruit that I haven't seen, let's give it a shot.
Yeah, I do feel like the vegan cooking channels definitely reach out further to experiment with different ingredients, because there's a hell of a lot more plants than there are animals.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of animals, but we, there's so many variety of plants, and they're not sentient, so it's okay.
Okay. I'm sure you probably want to move on and debate with other people. So
yeah, but I do want you to check out, if you could, go watch Dominion, and then I would love to hear from you, either if I'm still live or if you private message me. I would love to know if it's changed your perspective at all, even just a little. And and it sounds like you're right there. The Challenge 22 might be a great resource in the sense for you to try veganism, because you'll be in a group of people that are also trying it for the first time. So it's like a good support network.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I appreciate you coming up. Did you have any last thoughts or questions you wanted to share?
This is like the actual first vegan conversation I've had without, if you want me to be honest, without trolling. So I do appreciate it.
Yay! Well, I'm honored. I'm truly honored that you came onto my live and had a true conversation, because
I was thinking
honestly,
about it
these
for
are the
like a
most
hot minute. I'm gonna be dead honest with you. I was like, should I troll? Should I turn on my camera? I was like, no, I'm gonna hear this out.
Man, that's fantastic to hear that. Just to share a little bit about me, I used to I had vegetarian friends when I was growing up, and I was not vegetarian at all. And I would tease them. They wouldn't even say anything. And I thought it was lighthearted, but looking back on it, I was pretty aggressive. So sometimes the vegan trolls become the vegans because we learn the information, I don't know about you, but I wanted to know that I was right. So I went and did research, and then I found out a lot. So yeah, you're not alone. Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming up, Chloe. You have a great rest of your day. Like I said, check out Dominion, reach out to me, okay?
Okay. See ya.
Okay. All right. See ya. Hell yeah. I will totally, I totally get trolling. Like I used to tease, and I thought it wasn't that big of a deal. When you do start to recognize the animals, though, you start to see that the teasing is standing in the way of someone's rights. And that's why a lot of vegans don't laugh at the jokes anymore, because they're like, we want to progress a sentient being's rights, and everyone's kind of just laughing at that idea, just like they did with people of color that were enslaved, right? They were like, they literally said that people that were enslaved were flourishing under slavery, that if they weren't enslaved, that they would die just wandering around. And so I'm just saying that animals, they don't really need us. We've bred them to now be relying on us, but that's a problem we do need to fix. But they don't deserve to be used. Oh, get back up. Oh, there it goes. Welcome back, Keith.
I'm back. And this
You're
time,
back.
I'm pissed.
And you're ready.
Yep.
What are you pissed about?
Oh, no.
Or are you just ready? You just got spit and vinegar ready. Got it.
I'm ready to defend.
All right. I think Misha?
Hi, I did not expect to come up right now, but
Are
I
you
just
over
wanted to
18?
talk. I'm over 18, yeah. I just wanted to say that plants are not sentient, or whatever you call it. English is not my first language, I apologize.
That's okay.
But plants are not sentient, not at all. Like, I'm talking about that person. I think his name was like Marcus or something. He spent like 20 minutes talking about the sentience of plants.
You had a couple.
You do need a central nerve system to experience pain. And what would the evolutional purpose be of plants to feel pain? Because pain signals your body to get out of this situation, but plants can't move. So what would the evolutionary reason be to, you know what I mean? Like, how could a person be so dumb?
100%. Exactly. I think I even tried to say, like, why don't plants run away? And he could not answer that. He just said that they send signals. And yes, they do send signals. That is true.
Yeah, but
they're not
signals are not pain. Like,
right. I think he also brought up that study, something about the mycelium making, he said a brain, and I was trying to get clarification from him. Did it say a brain, or is it like a brain-like structure where they're just saying there's a bunch of connections happening, not sentience? The mushrooms. I don't know if Keith was reading that study.
But all I'm saying is you got my deepest respect for debating it in English, because I feel like Americans are like a different kind of level. Like, I also do debates in German, and German people are also very, very dumb. Like, it's crazy. But
we're just all human, right? We're all just dumb. That's what it is. That's good to hear, though, that the other lives are, running into the same. Well, it's not good to hear, but we share the pain.
Yeah, but Americans are like on a different level. Like, that's crazy.
Oh no, they are stubborn. I have to say, I feel uncomfortable sometimes talking to Americans face to face, because I am concerned that they will come after me physically, because that's just feels like it's now the American way.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming up. Did you have any other statements you wanted to share?
No, that's all. I just wanted to say that with the sentience, like, what do you mean? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
and you have my deepest respect for doing debates in English, and that's it. Thank you so much for
I wish I
lighting
spoke
up.
another language. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Well, somewhat happy. I don't like yelling at people, but I just don't want animals to be used anymore. But I appreciate you coming up, Misha.
Thank you. I appreciate you letting me up. But however, I'm going down again. I will watch the live from, you know what I mean?
From the comments?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for coming up.
Yep,
thank you.
All right. Yeah, plants are not sentient. That's just a silly argument. Plus, we've talked about the lawns, the crops, feeding crops to animals. And then you're unaliving all these sentient beings. All right, let's bring up Austin. Oh no, Austin, I'm sorry, I invited you. I canceled that. Can I cancel that? Oh, and I hit it again. There we go. I'm sorry about that, Austin. I scrolled too far down. User, I think you've been sitting there for a minute. You got to be over 18. Uh-oh. I don't think it's in the cards for you today. I'm sorry. Maybe leave the app and then come back. Landon, come on up.
Hello?
Hey, are you over 18?
Yes.
Right on. So what makes it morally acceptable for you to use animals?
Well, they're not the same species as me, and they don't have the same moral complexity that humans do, so I feel that there's no reason to extend them human rights.
Okay. So what about, like, can I do anything to animals? Anything I want?
That's not what I said.
That's what I'm asking.
We're talking about in the context for food, right?
I'm talking about using them for whatever I want.
Well, that's not what your prompt says. You say to use animals, and I'm making a differential out of that to specifically state
use.
about eating.
I didn't say eating. Where does it say eating?
No, I'm specifically saying eating.
I know, but my question is, what makes it acceptable for you to use animals, including eating?
Well, I wouldn't say it's acceptable for you to use them for anything, but for eating, I see nothing wrong with it because they're not the same species as me.
Okay, hold on. So why can't I use them for anything else?
Because I feel that would be immoral. I feel like if you're using it for what food is and what food is meant to be, then yeah, I think it's fine.
So why can't I use animals for other things? Like, why not?
Because I think it's wrong. I've said it 4 times.
Wait, I just want to understand.
Subjective morality.
Okay, I got it. So Landon, are you going around and telling people this, that you can't use animals in any other fashion but food?
No, I don't go around and flaunt that information, but if someone asks, yeah, I'll say that.
Okay, so people can't have pets?
Oh no, I didn't say they couldn't have pets. I'm just saying.
Oh, you said they can't be used. You just said they can't be used, right? That's still being used.
Okay, then sure. If that's your classification of use, I didn't know what you meant by that. I'm assuming you meant use against their will. Use would mean against its will.
When do animals use their will to be unalived?
Well, I just said for food, it's fine. There's a moral exception.
But why?
Why?
You're saying they can't be used for other things, but why can they be used for food? Like, I don't understand why.
They're not the same species as us. They're not the same species as us.
You keep saying that, but that doesn't... You just said I can't do what I want to them. So how do I know what I can and can't do to animals?
Because I just gave you an instance. You can only use it for food.
So what about dogs?
That's not a very difficult thing to comprehend. I'm sorry?
What about dogs?
Dogs? Yeah, sure. Dogs? You can use them for food. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess what makes it wrong to use them though? I don't understand why it's not okay to use them.
No, you're just playing down so that way you try to point out a flaw in my logic.
Calm down. Can I kick dogs?
No, I just said you can only use them for food.
Why not?
Why not? Why not?
Why is it abuse? I
would find that morally wrong. You're kicking the dog without reason.
You're not telling me why.
You're doing it without reason. There's no reason.
But why is that wrong?
The same reason that it's wrong to just randomly hit a human or randomly cut up somebody else's plants. That just doesn't make any sense. It's a useless thing to do.
What about a homeless dog?
What about a homeless dog? Same thing.
Yeah.
Unless you're using it for food, I think it's wrong.
Landon, you're not answering why.
You think it's more abusive to just kick a random dog versus run a knife across their throat?
Yeah, because one's slow and painful and the other one's quick.
Yes, a knife across their throat is slow and painful. I do agree.
Okay, you keep saying why because you're trying to point out a flaw in an argument.
I would much rather be kicked than have someone slit my throat and pull off my skin.
Well, that's great because in my personal beliefs that doesn't happen because I don't believe that you can hurt another human because we're the same species.
Would you like to be kicked or have your head removed? Which would you prefer?
By who? By what?
By me. I'm gonna kick you in the shin one time, really hard, but just one time.
That's wrong. That's wrong.
Or you could lose your head. Which would you prefer?
Neither, because I think that's wrong.
Which one would you prefer?
Neither, because I think it's wrong.
Landon, I want you to have a conversation with me. If you're just going to sit here and cry and say no a bunch of times, I'm just going to kick you. I want to have an actual conversation.
You're answering
just digging your heels. You just don't want to lose, and I understand that, but we're not talking about win or lose. We're talking about someone's life. Talking about life. You're the one.
Whose life?
Stop laughing like a clown. I want you to listen. Animals are sentient beings. That's why you shouldn't kick a dog.
They don't have moral complexity.
Kicking a dog one time is not as bad as removing their head, as they don't get to have any more experiences at all.
They don't have moral complexity.
We as humans protect other humans that don't have moral complexity. We don't exploit them. We find that immoral.
Because they're humans.
And it doesn't matter.
Same
You said the same thing about dogs, though, and dogs are not of our species. So you have contradictions. You're right. There is no difference. You said there is no difference from kicking a dog than punching someone in the face. And I agree because it's unnecessary.
That's not what I said. You're rambling.
You did say that.
What did I say? Say exactly what I said, please.
You said kicking a dog unnecessarily is the same as punching a human in the face unnecessarily.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
They aren't the same thing in
You
the
said
essence.
something
You're
along
asking, you're changing. Okay, hold on. You're changing what the question exactly was. You asked me two separate questions, and now you're
Question has
making
been the same.
You're asking me. You asked me two different questions, and now you're making a juxtaposition between the two separate questions. You just don't do that.
I'm
You're making-
saying that animals and humans have the same qualifiers that deserve moral consideration. We all live, we're all having an experience and making preferences on those experiences. We prefer to be comfortable.
Consider us? Do they
They're
morally
just-
consider us?
Landon, they are like mentally handicapped children.
No, they're
or someone
not.
who got bumped on the head. Yes, they
No, they're
are.
not,
They
because
have
they're not the same
functioning brains.
species.
Landon, they have complex inner lives. We have science on this. You're literally arguing against proven, peer-reviewed science.
Hold on. You're telling me your peer-reviewed science can prove to me that a dog can eat something and feel bad that it ate it. That's what you're telling me.
I'm
Go
not
ahead
saying
and find
animals
that
have.
source. No, go ahead
Stop,
and find that
Landon.
study. Go ahead
Good
and-
fucking God, dude. Shut up for 5 seconds. Okay? Animals feel pain. They don't need to reciprocate morality for us to consider them morally. They're called moral patients. We are moral agents. We can weigh out right and wrong. That's why we protect moral patients like children, people who don't have their full cognitive abilities.
Okay,
Moral
but
agents,
also-
moral patients.
Like
Sorry,
there's
Lydia.
many laws that already protect animals from
only in
very
the United
serious
States.
Not only in the United States.
Not only, but popularized in the United States of protecting dogs and cats. We know that. In China,
I mean, there's also,
it's
there's
because it's a
also laws
culture
protecting
thing.
other animals. Like we have entire laws against even using like wild birds and stuff.
Yeah,
so it's
but
just like there are protections involving animals because we are aware that they are sentient, they have experience, and that they do matter.
But I disagree with those. I don't think you should accept a couple of them. You either accept all or you accept none. So
What?
you
What are
either
you talking
accept,
about?
I think,
you either make
I
them
think
all.
that all animals should have protection. I don't think we should be farming and exploiting them. Yes, I agree.
Well, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you don't make laws just exempting certain ones just because. You exempt them for an actual reason, one. But two, if you're going to exempt all of them, actually exempt a few, exempt all. And if you're not going to exempt all, exempt none.
Landon, the reason why we have certain laws for like pet animals and other laws for livestock animals is because the
culture.
the farmers have to molest and unalive. They have to literally cause pain and suffering to these animals. And if they were to follow the laws that are meant for pet animals, they would be thrown in prison.
Okay?
Because they do bestiality and they have to cut them without anesthetic. And they just end their lives. They just take their lives at arbitrary times.
Yep. That's what
So
they
we
do
have
for food.
separate laws so that we can enslave them easier. That's why they made, it's because people see dogs and cats and other pet animals more frequently, so they connect with them. They see their sentience. Much
I
like
know.
some of the farmers that experience being around other farm animals, they go, oh my God, these animals are sentient.
Okay,
Or
that's
they put up
great.
a wall and just stay cold. It's one of the two.
Okay, but still, you're kind of quoting Dominion here. But still, like, no, Dominion.
I mean,
Dominion
it's not
no,
wrong.
you can't lie. Dominion does emphasize the fact that if you were around an animal more, you would actually feel more for it, more empathetic towards it, which is just a proven fact by nature. Humans are a social creature.
So
but
then what are you talking
so
about then?
okay, good. So what I'm saying is, I don't care if it's a cat or a dog. I think you still, as a human, have the moral right, in my opinion, to eat a cat or dog.
I'm not asking you for the right to eat them. I'm asking you, why is it okay for you to use them at all? Why do you get to cross their bodily autonomy when you don't have to?
Well, I get to cross them for food because I'd like to. There's nothing wrong with it. They're not the same species, and they don't have
a rapist wants to grape a dog. Is that okay?
I mean, that's their
it's
problem, not mine.
Do you think that's moral?
No, because we already made the
Why?
difference. Because
Why is that
again,
not moral?
Can I answer, or are you going to keep asking why?
Go ahead. Yeah. Why is it
Okay,
immoral?
I've already made the differentia earlier in my argument to say that I only agree that it's okay to use them for food. Why are you bringing up grape? It's
But
irrelevant.
Why? You don't say why.
Because they are not the same species
the
as us,
reason-
and we would be
well-
treated the same if anything was higher on the food chain than us.
So species, like, can we like make an argument as to why like species would be the relevant trait difference? Because
Species would.
it,
Go ahead.
if we look at things like from that level, right? Like, let's pretend society was built around like two groups of humans, you know, from its conception. We had one species of humans called alphas, for example. Ah, crap, I'm getting a phone call. So stupid.
All right, so what he's saying is that there's these two groups of people that we've grown up in this society. We both, I'm sure he would say, have humans that are of lower cognition. Would it be okay to enslave the other beings that are not human, to enslave their beings that are not of the same mental cognition?
So they're not human, right?
They're not human, and they're
They're
not
not people,
they're not all mentally challenged, but most of them have the same mental capacities as us. It's like they're just like us, they're just different DNA.
They're different DNA. That doesn't make any sense. How can they be just like us if they're different DNA? This is a horrible hypothetical.
They come from a different root. They're split off. They're different species. What was it?
They're not Homo sapien.
The Neanderthal. God damn it, I can't say it.
They're
Neanderthals. Thanks.
Neanderthals
Yes.
are still an evolution of humans, so no.
No, this would be over thousands of years that they have now separated from us. We can't mate
They
with
would
them.
still have the same. We
are
would still be
totally
able to
separated.
trace the DNA. We would still be able to trace.
Let's say
the
they
DNA.
don't.
That's impossible. You're bringing up an impossible hypothetical.
Landon, you're just digging your heels in. Calm down, buddy.
They're different species. They're not Homo sapiens.
So they're completely different species. We were never from the same root, like we were saying just a second ago.
Yes.
So we're not from the same root.
Nope.
Okay, then it's fine because they're completely different species. As I've said, that's my differential in my argument.
So you don't think that it's wrong that you're enslaving mentally handicapped people?
They're not
You think that's
people.
moral?
You just said they weren't people.
I said they're not human.
You're backtracking now. I asked you if they were people
Landon,
or if they were humans.
Time out. I would like to say that you are using circular reasoning when we're asking what is the moral difference, and you're just saying because they're different. It's circular reasoning. It's fallacious.
Well, am I going to get a chance to even explain that? You keep asking me questions and saying why.
This is like known fallacious reasoning. If you want to research like circular reasoning and like the problems with it when it comes to like especially moral debates, you should probably do the research on the side.
I know what
I'm kind of ready to move on.
Ditto. I was right there with you. I was like, I don't know how to. I'm trying to be a little kinder, but it's definitely getting harder as the live goes on.
What did I miss?
He just thinks that I don't know. I can't even really remember all of it. They all start to blur together.
The species thing is just all I was going to say with that one. I didn't finish it, I guess, but just the concept.
The alien scenario. Yeah.
Yeah, just
not the alien. Sorry,
like
the two. Yeah.
Yeah, you can just have like two groups of humans that like where it was always the case that there was a second species that was human-like. They looked a lot like us, but yeah,
that was what we went down, and he ended up saying it's okay to enslave them because they're not human. He said that.
Oh, wow. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So yeah, the non Homo sapiens have still the same or similar capacities for emotion, intelligence, and suffering.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He still said that. Yeah. He still said it doesn't matter. I said specifically what I added to your scenario was they are the same as us, but they have like some of their population have like what we have for Down syndrome. They have something similar or some kind of, mental difference that makes them not as cognitive as the rest. And I said, could we enslave those beings? And he said yes. Because they're not
It's really
the same
annoying that like
cognition and
the
not
two
human.
times I get going.
I know, and you have such a good point too that you're making.
Well, no, it's like I was just like every time I'm like in the mid so far this live when I'm like just starting to talk about something is like ring 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 ring.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Mr. Popular over here.
Leave me alone.
Beat him off with sticks. It's funny. Okay, guys, let's see where are we at for time. Okay, cool. I'll go another 40 minutes. How are you guys feeling? You doing okay?
Yeah, we're doing okay. I was just amused by the circular reasoning. It was simple.
Yeah, I kept asking him why too, and I'm like, I don't really know how to go deeper than just why is it okay to take their head but not kick them, and who made the rules on what you can do with what animal. He was all over the place. I felt like Mr. Hot.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the difference of intrinsic bad and instrumental bads. Like kicking would be intrinsically bad because we're causing an active, harm and violence in and of itself, but the instrumental bad, like you're depriving that being of any future possibilities and experiences,
Right.
whether they're good or bad. So yeah.
Personally, I'll take a kick any day over having my life taken.
I would like to experience good things. So
And that's usually why the legal punishment for unaliving someone is much more severe than just kicking someone. You'll get assault charges maybe on one, but then you might get life on prison for the other.
Which is funny too, because they'll run that argument of like, so like there's that argument is like, well, we have the potential for like having a better life, and like, oh, well, these animals on these farms don't have the potential for a better life. Okay, then why the hell are we exhibiting that on them? That's insane.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the back and the pretzeling, always going into pretzels. Yeah.
But yes, Landon, we know that we're a different species. That's just not all justification.
Yeah, exactly. It's about the sentience. It's about somebody having an experience and wanting to continue having experiences, not wanting to stop, you know? And even if they did want to stop, you still need their consent. Nobody's trying to get animals' consent. Why? Go ahead, Keith, sorry.
No, I was gonna say, yeah, just the species. Like, I don't know why he's still arguing this, despite the fact that we've just explained it. Like, having a different species is not a valid reason. Again, you could have the alpha beta situation. You could have the Clark Kent situation where he's jettisoned from Krypton to planet Earth. He's taken care of. He's done nothing but altruistic things his entire life. And then we find out his organs, everything about his DNA is completely different from ours. So now it's justified to cause harm and exploit Superman and his family and children simply because he's not Homo sapien. Like, if you genuinely think that, you're actually insane.
Yeah, I agree.
Sorry.
Don't be sorry. He's probably, I see that he actually just requested to come back up too. That's funny. I don't want to have you back up. JJ. You gotta be over 18. Sorry, my man's making coffee.
Unforgivable.
I'm sorry. All right, JJ, I'm sorry. It doesn't look like it's gonna work out. If you leave, maybe come back. Turbo. Oh, okay. Gotta be over 18.
I'm 19.
Okay. What makes it morally acceptable for you to use animals?
So, I mean, I use animals all the time. I'm a rancher. I work on a ranch. I use cattle, sheep, farm, horses. And I don't use them for my own personal pleasure. I use them because it's a resource I have and able to use. Like sheep, if you, like, you have to, I use them for their wool, right? If you don't take their wool off, it's gonna.
Well, I mean, whose fault is that?
What do you mean?
Yeah, Turbo, do you know what animal the sheep comes from?
No.
Okay, well...
What
it comes from the mufflon, and we can see the mufflon as it exists. What? Yeah, so the mufflon still exists. It's one of the rare examples of a farmed animal that we still have the wild derivative to this day.
Yeah.
You can go look at the wild mufflons that exist in our world. They don't have that problem because they haven't been selectively bred by the hands of humans for close to 10,000 years, resulting in the problem you're referring to.
Again, that's
human
not my fault, though.
It's not your specific fault. It would be your fault for continuing that practice and exacerbating the situation further.
I'm just doing a job to keep the sheep alive.
Yeah, you can shear the sheep and take care of them, but making a profit and continuing an industry that predicates on... Either way, if you are just utilizing them for your gain to then make that be like essentially like a continued popularized thing that we should continue to exploit and use these animals in this way, you're still perpetuating that notion, that idea, that mindset.
Well, also, if you realize if there are animals being unalived, the overpopulation will take over, and we'll have no plants, no.
Well, 70% to 80% of all animals are artificially inseminated to be produced in the first place, and when we look at poultry, especially the majority of broiler chickens and the majority of turkeys that are produced in farming practices, especially in factory farming, are not even capable of reproducing with one another because we've made them so large and fat that by the time they reach reproductive states, they can't impregnate one another. We have to do it for them, basically.
So y'all are going to factor. Okay, that makes sense.
Well, no, that's just the majority of the situation. So, like,
I know, majority.
you brought up a problem. You brought up a problem of overpopulation will take place. Well, no, the problem is already existing with overpopulation and is exacerbated and continued by people who farm animals because, again, the majority of that comes from our farming.
Are you talking about like a private ranch or like a big house?
I'm talking about all animal agriculture. All animal agriculture perpetuates it to some extent. And to that extent, 99% of all animals are factory farmed, especially poultry.
I mean, mine aren't factory farmed.
I understand that yours aren't, but the vast majority are. 99% are.
So what else am I supposed to do if I can't, use a horse to go from one side of my land to another?
An ATV, your feet.
So I can't use like a cattle for food?
No, that would not be something that we would be in alignment with. No.
Why not though?
Because we're causing unnecessary harm and exploitation to a sentient being where it doesn't need to happen.
But how so if it's, using it for a resource we need?
That's why I'm saying we don't need that resource. We can get on just fine without consuming beef, poultry, pork, etc.
How so, though?
Because we get nutrients from plants.
Aren't plants living too?
Plants are not sentient. Vegans are concerned about exploiting sentient beings, not non-sentient living organisms. Like, I'm not concerned about the bacteria that might exist on, a person's tongue, and then they brush their teeth, and then those bacteria die. Oh no, a living organism has died. I'm not concerned about that. I'm concerned about sentience.
But plants don't have the same nutrients we need. You have to supplement it for something else.
We can get all the nutrients that we need. Where do you get nutritionfacts.org.
Protein from?
Yeah, so from beans and legumes and other, like, every plant has some amount of protein in it, including all the essential amino acids. It's just to varying degrees. Some have much more than others, like beans, legumes, grains, etc. These are usually the higher sources of protein, but you do obviously get some amount of protein from every food. It's not completely devoid. Obviously, like, there's some that are extremely low, like a serving of strawberries has like less than 1 gram of protein. It does have protein there technically, but like I wouldn't get the majority of my protein from that. I get my protein from beans, legumes, tofu, tempeh, etc. Like these are the kinds of things that we'd be reaching for. And they've had large scale like studies on these proteins and their effectiveness. Like, we have a meta-analysis and systematic review, which is the pinnacle of scientific evidence on the hierarchy of scientific evidence. So we have meta-analysis and systematic reviews pointing out then when plant protein is matched to the animal protein quantity. So, like, say you're getting 140 grams of plant protein and then 140 grams of animal protein between the two like participants that they had in the study. Well, obviously it was more than 2, but like the countless studies that they do for this, they show no statistical difference in terms of protein synthesis and muscle gain outcomes. It's all intrinsically the same.
Okay. How something that Miss Lady over here said, how do you ask an animal for consent?
We can't, and that's why we would not choose to just exploit an animal. Like your cow that you're about to say, like, take their life to consume them. You can't ask that cow, hey, you okay with me chopping you up and then consuming you? If cows could like communicate with us and they could actively engage and say, well, sure, Turbo, that's totally fine. Go ahead. If that was the case, then, veganism wouldn't be a thing, or at least like this degree of veganism wouldn't be a thing. We'd only be concerned about either the animals that can't consent or the animals that we believe are maybe being coerced into, consenting against
Well then,
them.
well, if animals could talk, then we'd be more concerned for plants. Then, if you think about it.
I mean, I still wouldn't have a concern about plants because, again, plants are not sentient. Because I'd be concerned about like maybe ecological factors around that. But yeah, if animals could talk, we would have still like at that point these animals wouldn't like it would be insane if all animals learned how to talk and then all of them said, hey, I consent to being eaten by humans. The overwhelming majority of them would be just like humans to the capacity where they would say, yeah, I don't want to have my life just arbitrarily taken and taken from me just so you can consume me. Like most animals would not be in favor of that.
So, but also other animals eat other animals all the time.
Right, and animals also grape each other all the time. Animals eat their own children all the time. Hedgehogs will mix their saliva with their shit and spread it on their back. Scientists still don't understand why they do this. We don't have to repeat what animals
don't understand the difference from each other as we understand the difference from brothers and sisters. They can't think that clearly.
Yeah, that's the point. They are moral patients. We are moral agents. So we have the capacity to rationalize and reason and think about, hey, like, maybe I should do better because there's, a moral consideration happening here. Like when a lion is out on, the prairie and sees a weak gazelle at the edge of the herd, a normal situation is like they see an opportunity to go after sustenance. Whereas if a lion had the capacity for sapience, like we do, a lion could maybe go, oh, wait, well, instead of taking that gazelle's life, that's right, I'm going to have lunch with my brother, a plant-based lunch with my brother in 3 hours, so I'll have that instead. Like, if that was actually the case, then that would be a very different story.
So, but we're animals too as well.
With sapience. That's what I just outlined.
Yeah, Homo sapiens, which is an animal.
No, sapience refers to our cognitive capacities, so the advanced levels of reasoning, judgment, wisdom, intelligence, etc. It's not to do with us just being like an animal like that. Like when we include sapience or sapient in Homo sapient, that's what it's referring to, is our unique mental capacities. So that's why we are moral agents, and no animal outside of us is a moral agent. They are all moral patients.
How are other animals sentient, though?
So sentience just refers to the capacity for subjective experience. Are you having a subjective experience where you are out in the world experiencing it? There's something behind your eyes. There's a brain, engaging with the world. And on top of this, do you have like capacity to experience pain and pleasure and joy and happiness and sadness and nervousness and all these different emotional factors? These are the main kind of driving factors of what sentience is. So it doesn't need to entail like, higher levels of cognitive thought or the capacity for self-awareness, even though we do have some animals that do show that, especially like gorillas and apes, dolphins, whales, elephants, etc. But still, like these animals that we consume are highly intelligent. We have pigs that are as smart as 4-year-old toddlers. They can actually learn how to play video games.
I mean, scientific studies shows gorillas are a lot like humans, yet they kill each other all the time.
Right, again, but they lack that full sapience. They are not of the same cognitive faculties that we have. They have similarities between us. Many of the great apes have many physical similarities to us and certain mental similarities, obviously, like when they see that there's someone in the a member of their family who is not I'm ignoring that phone call, a member of their family who is unwell or is feeling sad or whatever, they will actually go and try to reassure them. Like they will put them around them, arm around them, they'll hug them. Like these animals are not like just like uncaring of others. Like they do have like a general higher like sense of altruism than many other animals, but yeah, they are still not of the same level where they understand every single moral, fallacy or worth within every single being, and why they should avoid harming others in every single situation. Even humans don't understand this. We have humans who are fighting and causing harm to other humans because of like certain upbringings where they grew up in a bad neighborhood and they were taught a certain way, and they didn't understand that, wow, I shouldn't just cause harm to this person I don't know. There's lots of examples of even humans that don't understand this basic moral consideration.
So, I mean, I understand, but why do humans kill each other then?
Right, that's what I'm talking about. It's usually due to a misunderstanding of not knowing why, this other human has moral worth. We have people who will, exhibit violence towards other humans, and it's usually to do with them not understanding why this other person has moral worth. But that wouldn't be a reason for you, like, to cause harm to other humans, obviously. And that also, by the same extension, wouldn't be a justification or reason for you to cause harm to animals.
What do you mean?
I mean that by the same extent of you causing harm to a human, a fellow sentient being, is the same as you causing harm to a animal, a fellow sentient being. Like, both of these are sentient beings that have the capacity to feel pain. They have their own subjective experiences that don't want to be, broken or impeded upon. They want to live their lives. Like, it's all the same between us and
How
the
do you
animals
know?
from that front.
How do you know they want to live lives?
Yeah, because we can actually analyze this from more horrible studies that took place in the past. Like, there was a study at the University of Zurich in the 1970s where they were testing, if you don't know, about 80% of pigs are killed via gas chambers in the UK and the US. So they were testing the gas out on these pigs in a test to see, like, how much do they care for their life to, like, avoid such a situation again, right? So basically they fed this pig in the same kind of like holding cell area and gave it belly rubs, all the different things that this pig would always come running gleefully to this one pen, because it knew that was like its happy place in the world, for lack of a better term. And one day, they, after like months of doing this, like basically kind of like getting him acclimated to that, they then put him in, closed the door, turned on the gas, not to a deadly level, but to a level of, it would exhibit pain or suffering. And since that day, that pig never, ever refused to go into that area ever again. Just flat out will not go back. So we understand, like, with their actions, that they want to avoid harm, they want to avoid pain, they want to avoid situations that cause stress and could potentially lead to their death. Like, these are things that do not feel good to them. It goes against their preferences.
Okay. So, what do I do if a, cow naturally dies on the pasture?
I mean, what would you do if your dog naturally died?
Bury it somewhere?
Or I mean, that's what I would do if I was taking care of a cow myself. I wouldn't see that as now like a reason to go take this cow and consume the cow. I would just give the cow a proper burial, as I would do with my dog. That's how I would view that kind of situation.
If that happened, then damn, I would have a lot of my pasture would be a graveyard.
Well, that's because you're, like, again, raising and producing these animals like as much as you can for your profit, right? This would be the same thing as like if someone had a dog farm, right? If I had a dog farm and I had countless dogs, that would be the same situation for them now. Where like, oh, well, this would turn into a graveyard. Well, yeah, potentially, but you could also like cremate the dogs. It's about moving away from that mentality, that industry that is predicating on the use and exploitation of these animals. You might have an initial
I use my animals
large
for
amount
good,
of
though.
death that occurs, but
I use my animals for good, though.
what good is that?
Transportation, movement, stuff we've had for a very long time, for centuries. You know, they used
Well,
horses and
then,
goats to move from one point of thing to another. I mean, I
right,
use my
and
horses to catch my cattle because if they run away, because I
right,
paid for that cattle, though.
you don't need to do that now, though. Like, we have the capacity to move around with other means that don't involve exploiting animals.
But I can't let a car on my pasture.
You can let an ATV on your pasture.
You get stuck.
You can use a motorcycle, a dirt bike. You could use any number of other things.
That's more expensive than having a horse.
No, I mean, a one-time purchase of a dirt bike is very inexpensive compared to the constant care for an animal over many years of its life that you then eventually also have to replace because that animal will eventually die.
I
You know,
enjoy riding horses. I enjoy what I'm doing. Why
right? You
stop?
can
Enjoy what I'm doing.
get enjoyment from riding a dirt bike. You can
No,
get enjoyment from riding an ATV.
I'm actually scared of those.
Well, maybe start slow.
So Turbo, what gives you the right to force your body onto a horse? What gives you the right to force that onto the horse? Did you ask their consent?
How do you ask an animal's consent? You can't ask an animal's consent.
Right.
But here's the
I
thing,
agree. I agree.
I'm
So
not
why
forcing
are
nobody on
you
a horse.
allowed to then make them do something without their consent?
Because they enjoy doing it too.
No. Do you know what has to happen to a horse to be broken? In order for a
Depends on the
horse
way
to be
you do
safe, it doesn't matter. In order
It
for
does
a horse
matter.
to be safe, they need to know that they are dominated by the one on their back. Otherwise, they will not be a safe ride. So they need to know that they are not in control and that they are dominated. Often this depends on the personality of the horse. I know that there are more
depends on how you
humane
train the
techniques.
horse.
It doesn't matter. Turbo, I've
It
heard
does matter.
interviews of professionals that have done horse breaking for years. And what they say is that those nicer methods sometimes work. Most of the time,
They
you
work for
still
me.
have to use, sometimes they work, but that doesn't mean you're using consent. That just means that you're training them to accept their domination. Some horses would be more
Isn't that what you do with
resistant to
humans,
that.
though? Isn't that what
Humans
you
are
do
the
with
same
humans?
way. Some humans accepted their slavery and some fought back. That doesn't mean that it was right to enslave them.
So I have a question. Do you have a job?
Yes.
Do you have a boss?
Yes.
You have to listen to them, right? It's like the same
Yes,
exact
but
way.
they can't touch me.
I
They
understand
can't
can touch
make
you, but
me
they can
have
tell-
babies.
They can
They
tell you
can't
what
put their
to do.
hand up my ass and put semen in my vagina.
So,
They can tell you
Turbo,
what to
Turbo. The
do, though,
difference
and I'm
is
not
the
saying
things that
that.
they can, the things
You
that
are.
the things that
Sorry,
your
keep
boss can request you to do are things that you contractually agree to when accepting the job. You said, "I'm okay with those things being asked of me." I agree. That is the difference.
I didn't sign no contract with the field of work I'm in. I just do it.
So, Turbo, what I'm saying is, what justification would you accept for
Hey,
someone to cross
what?
your bodily autonomy without your consent?
Hey, why are you yelling at me? I didn't yell at you. I've been respectful of you.
Answer my question, or you can say goodbye.
What's your question?
What justification would you accept for someone to cross your bodily autonomy without your consent? So someone bigger and stronger than you comes up and wants to do whatever they want to you. Are you going to accept that?
I mean, at that point, you kind of have to.
What? No.
And then you report
You
it
can tell
later.
them don't. You can say,
Hey,
I don't
but
want to
do
be
they listen?
exploited.
Do they listen? Do half
So
the
do you
people know the
agree,
answer
Turbo,
no?
I want you to focus. If they did that to you and you told them to stop, would you not want them to stop?
I mean, of course I would, but are they going
Okay,
to?
so
No.
then why is it okay for you to inflict that on others that are vulnerable to you?
That's how grape happens, though. I wouldn't, but that's how grape happens, though. People go out and people tell them to stop. No, but it still happens.
But you are in control of your own choices. You can decide to do right or wrong. If you know that there's a sentient being that you cannot reliably communicate with, you shouldn't use them for your benefit. It's fine to care for somebody. It's fine that you have companion animals to spend time with, but it's not okay that you use them without their permission. Just like it's not okay if someone uses you.
But here's the thing: half the population, half society today, don't understand the word no. That's how so grape happens. You can do something afterwards, but in the moment you can't do anything.
Doesn't matter, Turbo. You're getting off track. You know what's right and wrong. That's what I'm pointing out. You're in control of your own choices.
What do you mean it doesn't matter? Grape matters very much.
Because I'm not talking to the grapist. I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
I'm talking to you and your choices. And I'm saying you're inflicting unnecessary suffering.
I'm not
Those
suffering
cows
anybody.
want to live. Those cows want to live. And you taking that away is suffering.
That's, I mean, if it's a one-time thing and they don't feel any pain,
It doesn't
no, it's
matter.
not.
If you did it to a human, if you took their life, that would also be considered abuse. It would be immoral. If you don't have a reason to take someone's life, yes.
I mean, of course you would never reason to take someone's. So, but what if
That's my
someone
point.
tried to grape my brother? Would that be okay?
Doesn't matter, Turbo. You're getting distracted, and I think we're just going to say good day. You've been up here too long. I don't think you understand. You're bringing up other immoral atrocities that I agree. Those are immoral. Somebody shouldn't try to grape somebody. That's why dairy is immoral. We shouldn't be putting our arms up cows and squirting stuff in their vaginas. We shouldn't be forcing them to mate, shoving them in pens with randy males.
Yep. Just, I mean, it was just filled with because I like to do it. Like what?
Yes.
It's
Well,
not
and
a
at some point,
justification.
he's just being a butt on purpose. He's purposely not trying to follow what we're putting down. All
I'm
right.
not tracking.
Yeah. I'm sure he does track. He's just purposely being difficult.
Hey,
That's
how's
the
it going?
problem. What's going on, right? Are you over 18?
Yes, I am. I am 18.
Right on. Cool.
So,
So what makes it more acceptable for you to use animals?
okay, so I want to touch over base for just a couple things firstly, but I wanted to talk about.
Well, I do want your answer. That's the whole reason I have the live. Okay.
So I want to focus right now on particular of chicken husbandry, more specifically because I have chickens and I own them for companionship, and I've rescued quite a bunch of them, and I also eat their eggs. I don't kill any of them, even my roosters. I don't rehome them. I have them as pets and as companions, and I treat them with respect. Now, would you consider that me using that animal?
Yes.
Why?
Oh, because you're still seeing them as a resource.
Right. So
I will admit, it's probably on that lower spectrum of concerns, but you're still seeing them as a resource. Do you ever give the eggs back to them?
no, I don't feed my eggs back to them.
Okay.
I
Do
eat
you
them
look
myself.
into methods? Do you look into methods to help them reduce how many eggs they produce? Because
I
it's not
don't.
healthy for them.
Yeah.
Okay.
For some breeds, it is. I don't give them
For
artificial
all
light over
birds,
the winter.
for all birds, it is dangerous to overproduce eggs.
Yeah, I mean,
They can
do
get
you,
stuck in their
That's true.
cloaca.
do you know like the origins of the modern day chick, like what animal they come from?
Yeah, red jungle fowl, and they were
Right.
originally bred for cockfighting, but then people.
Yes. How many eggs did that breed produce per year?
So I think that they lay up to maybe 4 clutches within a year. So that's I think maybe 40 or 50 on a maximum end, and I know that chickens have been bred to.
Their
It's
common
just 12.
their common production was 12 to 15.
12 to 15. Okay, and chicken egg production has been exacerbated tremendously. I know, especially with commercial leghorns, it goes up to 300 plus almost every day.
Yeah.
So that is bad, like, because it is very taxing on the bodies.
The biggest point of like not seeing animals as someone for us to use is to avoid the mindset that brought us to where we are today. That mindset is the very thing that brought about this problem. It brought about the initial act of, yes, using them for like cockfighting and whatnot, which then led to the thought process of, well, what if we use them for meat and eggs? And then we went, all right, well, let's just start like taking the ones that make the most meat and the most eggs. Let's put those ones together, and we'll make more of those ones, and we'll keep doing this over and over again until, yeah, by the 1900s they were laying, 10 times the amount that they did in the wild, and now since the early 1900s till now, we've doubled that amount from 120 to, yeah, like you said, close to 300. So yeah, it's breaking that mentality of seeing animals for someone to use as someone for us to use when we don't need to. And like the most ethical options you have as someone taking care of chickens in terms of their betterment, like considering them, is not to consume their eggs. It would actually be to either feed their eggs back to them as as a baseline, and then B, it would be to, if applicable, give them a hormone injection or implant that basically stops their egg production or limits it much more to what it more naturally should be if they were, left alone for the last, 3,500 years. So, these are the things that we should be implementing and using when we're taking care of these, battered and harmed chickens from, intensive farming agriculture practices. We should take them in and take care of them, but A, we should not be breeding and making more of them, and B, we should be giving them the best life and opportunities that we can at that point, not still predicating that same mindset that led to where we are today.
Using them as a resource. Okay, so first I want to touch base on the implants. Lowering any sort of natural estrogen production in any animal tends, and it has been observed in poultry, tends to lead to reproductive issues like ovarian cancers or egg peritonitis. So while you are trading off maybe egg production and maybe placing an emphasis on less eggs, so they might not have like their cloacas being blown out from prolapse from laying an egg, but you are also running into risks for cancers or other reproductive issues. So there's not exactly a way to, what would the word be? Safeguard
to give them a
against
birth
that?
control.
Yeah, to give them birth control.
So there's a micro sanctuary. It's called Chicken Butt
Mhm.
Micro Sanctuary. I would check them out because she doesn't consume their eggs, but she does care for her chickens, and
Yeah.
she does have methods for helping them not overproduce eggs, and even for her roosters who like to obviously grape the hens, she has solutions for her roosters as well, so that they all live in peace.
Yeah,
She might be a good resource for you to check out.
I keep my roosters in bachelor flock. Well, not all of them. I mean, I have some of my roosters over my hens who, run on pasture. They're fenced in, but it's copious amounts of land. They're able to eat grass and everything. I try to reduce my feed bill. I really want to stray away from buying industrialized chicken feed because, there's a lot of bad things that go into.
Great way to reduce that would be to just not use the chickens you have and just maintain their lives as long as you possibly can and not get more unless you're rescuing them. But
and also feeding their eggs back to them, because that's nutrients that they're losing in the process of producing eggs that then you're now taking essentially.
But I do
that you could instead return back to them.
see, you're supplementing when you could just give them the nutrients right back with the eggs, though. So that's a cost right there out the window. You don't have to pay for that.
So what would I eat in place of eggs? Because there's a lot of
beans.
There's a lot of nutrients within eggs that,
like what?
Omega-3 fatty acids, all the protein.
Flaxseed.
Yeah.
There's protein in all plants. As long as you get enough calories, you'll get your protein. Yeah.
Um,
I do have, if you want to eat healthy, I have these resources here. Challenge 22 to talk to a dietitian directly. Nutrition facts if you want to see the studies. ChatGPT if you just want to look for your own resources. Be like, hey, can you show me the studies that say it's okay to do this or not okay to do this? Why are vegans vegan? What makes them vegan? If you want to ask it for a meal plan, because we're focusing on food, you could then check it with Cronometer, which will tell you, it'll break down what's in the food. So if you want to eat healthy, I have all these resources.
Okay.
I'm here advocating that you don't need to use those chickens. There's other things you can eat.
Okay,
I
so
appreciate that you rescued them, though. That's sweet.
so I have to ask for the moral baseline. Is
Oh,
vegans
how would
are
you like to be used
how would I like to be used?
without your
Um,
consent?
what do you
Would
mean?
you tolerate it? Would you tolerate someone telling you what to do and using you for your hair or whatever resource they wanted off your body? You had
So
to
for
live in
sheep,
their
for
little.
example, if I had rescued sheep, I maybe had looked into that. If you have to shear sheep, that's how they've been bred. I don't feel like there's an issue with shearing a sheep and then
See, again, though,
using them.
you're buying them or you're purposely getting them to use. Like, what if I was to adopt children because I wanted to grow out their hair and sell them to wig companies? Would that be moral? They're going to
No,
grow
but
hair anyway.
regardless, people have
Well, that's my
children for
point. No, no,
selfish.
no, Noah, that's my point. I don't care what other people are doing. You and I are having a discussion on what we agree is moral and not moral. We
Okay,
both agree. We both agree that someone adopting a child or children just to use their resources would be immoral. And I'm telling you, you're doing the same action by adopting animals. You're saying you're rescuing them, but you're really just exploiting them until they can't anymore. And maybe you let them live out till they just naturally go, but you're still using them.
so I have to ask just for the moral baseline.
Hmm.
Having kids, would that be considered also unethical? The kid did not ask to be brought into this world. And you're kind of living out
There
your own
are,
selfish.
what's that term? Yeah, some people do agree that yes.
Do
Anti-natalist.
you
Thank you,
agree?
antinatalist. Yeah, I will not be having kids because of
Okay.
that reason. Not because I'm an antinatalist. Like, I'm not telling other people to not have kids, but because I can't get their permission, and I feel like this world they're not going to really be able to thrive in from the position they
Okay.
would be starting. But would I tell other people that it's immoral to have children? I mean, if they're using them, yes.
Okay. And
If they're genuinely caring about them,
I
I'm not
have
gonna
one
say
more
anything.
question, which kind of feeds into a little bit more categories. I don't want to take up too much time, unless there's more people, not any more people in queue. But
I mean, if you're probably gonna actually be my last guess,
okay,
because I usually only go 3 hours. So
okay.
go
So
ahead.
is the vegan ideology set in reducing suffering in
Reducing
most?
exploitation.
So is there any sort of prerogative on reducing suffering for living beings?
It's just being
Or
against
sentient-
exploitation of sentient beings. For me, that includes humans. There are some vegans that will differentiate, but I think that we as humans, as sentient beings, also deserve to not be exploited. So I do think that we all can agree that human exploitation is immoral. That's why I don't really come on to the live and talk about human exploitation. Sorry, I have something in my eye. Just because I'd be preaching to the choir, right? I'd be telling people what they already agree with. Whereas animal rights, I know most people don't really understand even. So
Okay. So
yeah.
So obviously there's big issues with industrial farming. I feel like even people who eat meat can agree on that, but we should also take a look at the issues within industrialized agriculture and the death toll that it has on the animals, which
Are you talking
are,
about crop deaths?
yes, crop deaths,
Okay. So before you continue,
pesticides. Okay,
we have to feed animals plants.
I
So
know
any
that.
crop death argument you have is compounded by the animals you use. So if we went to a vegan world, we would grow fewer plants. We would use
I'm
75% less
Yeah,
ag land.
and less
Okay.
water. And I know that
Yeah.
farming animals, especially on industrial scale, is so much more
Oh, no.
taxing on.
So actually, industrial farming is way less resource intense than free range. Like, it uses way less land. The animals get fatter quicker, so they use less food. So it's actually better for the environment to concentrate animal farming than it is to spread it out. So even
It's
though around those areas it does harm the immediate environment on a large scale, it's better than having a bunch of huge farms.
it's
I
not
think
concentrated though, in the sense that I mean, feedlots, yes, they're concentrated, but the food in which you have to
Yeah.
grow is not concentrated. Um,
What? Wait. What are you talking about, the crops?
the crops that they grow is not concentrated, because they
Yeah,
have
they
to
do.
grow
They
a
do
lot.
monocropping.
Yes,
They
but
do
it's
monocropping for the feed, and that has crop deaths, right? That's what we were talking about.
yes.
Okay.
I mean, so the basis would be like this: like we understand obviously that it sounds like you agree that like yes, the biggest problems behind crop deaths and whatnot is animal agriculture, but it's not like vegans would say like say the world is like now like mostly vegan or all vegan. Like we would absolutely still want to see improvements made within the plant agriculture sector. Like we want to see things like veganic farming. We want to see things like vertical farm operations, grow towers, things like this that can reduce those deaths and like, albeit they're incidental, we can still grant them merit as something to avoid. They're not rights violations, but we would like to still see, yeah, improvements made there. Obviously, just because you know there's capacity and room to do so. So yeah, in a world where all farmers are vegan and they all consider these kinds of things, the amount of like pesticides and herbicides and all these things that we kind of indiscriminately spray sometimes, and then certain practices in the realm of tilling and whatnot, these things could have room to be changed or modified or improved or whatever it is. Like that's more of a discussion to happen after we address like the big massive issue of animal agriculture, but it's something that we already have people actively doing, engaging with, thinking about. If you want to talk to someone who knows a lot about it, go speak with Ben, the vegan farmer on here. He's a veganic farmer. He knows his stuff. He can get into all
in the chat.
He's probably in the
Yeah, I
chat.
saw him in there.
So there you go.
So have y'all thought of taking steps to employ your own like small scale gardening or vertical gardening or anything to reduce your reliance on corporate farming or these corporate industries which are killing the environment? Because if everybody grew their own food, it would be so much better for
double-edged to an extent, because I still want to support these like companies that are producing plant-based foods. I want, like, even though those farmers aren't like maybe doing like the exact methods I would personally do or whatever, they're still actively producing crops, which I think is important for the economy, humanity as a whole. And I still want like to support them to some extent. Yeah, like, I've like taken on like growing potatoes and things like this here and there, and that's provided like some amount of calories and stuff for me. But I don't think that we need to have like this avoidance mentality of just altogether avoiding it. I think what you should maybe aim for is supporting farms that produce plants that you like. Like you don't have to just say no to all of it. Like go to farmers markets, talk to the farmers.
Yeah, and I do. I try to shop on a level.
Get a sense of like what their practices are. Like those are great things that may or may not be accessible to everyone, especially like during like the winter months and stuff. But yeah, like I don't see a reason to just like flat out avoid plant-based products in the store, especially like things that involve more of a specialty know-how kind of thing, like things that are I don't know, like mock meats and things like this, that take someone who has the knowledge on how to make those flavors and particulars to make that exact product. I think it's good to support those kinds of companies where you can, and where it makes sense. I don't see a reason to really avoid them from like a moral stance.
Yeah, well, I do because again, like let's say beyond meat and the plant product that they substitute for meats, it is also industrially farmed. The soy. I mean, I've
The
been
resource demand is way less, way less.
yeah,
Less land, less water, like 99% less water.
yeah.
Huge difference.
It's obviously way less.
The point would be is I still don't see rights violations occurring, and that's why I don't have a moral issue with it. I can see room to make improvement.
Violations against the native animals which live there, or the insects which need to be
No,
killed
because
with
we're not
glyphosate.
growing. Rights violation would mean that we're growing this food so that we can like kill those animals purposefully, right? Like when I plant an ear of corn as a farmer, I don't plant that ear of corn and go, oh boy, I can't wait for like a rare squirrel species to come by and bite into this or whatever.
You're right, but
that's like the variance in rights violation between that and and what you're talking about.
But they
I
still
call it self-protection. We're protecting our food source, and these animals on their free will come into the crops and get harmed. Same thing if humans wander in on someone's property unwelcomed, right? They're going to get harmed. It's just the
but
way it happens.
but again, if we are what is the word? The moral um
Right. If most farmers are not vegan though. Like
yeah.
how that's a big task for a vegan to take on. We should be challenging them. I don't have an issue with that. Maybe that's the next frontier of the vegan movement, is calling farmers and telling them to move their techniques. But it doesn't change the fact that animal farming is directly exploiting animals. So
Yeah.
if you know that for sure someone's being exploited versus maybe someone's being harmed, which product, if you had to choose, are you going to pick?
Well, I would choose the latter.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
And that's what vegans are saying, is that we know for sure the animals are exploited and that they don't deserve that, and that they wouldn't choose that on their own volition. And we
Yeah.
shouldn't force that on them. That's all.
Yeah, but I was gonna interject, and I mean that was already some time
Go
ago.
ahead.
But I was gonna say that can we really place the responsibility on the insect or the small mammal, mouse,
Yes.
whatever, for their free?
For
Is
now.
it really their
For
free
now.
will?
Yes, it is their free will for now. We have ways that we already talked about the ways that we can improve farming. Vegans can't make farmers do things though, right? We're consumers. All we can do is use our dollar. If we really want to, yes, we could try to find some plots of land. Not everyone has access to this though. Everyone does. Everyone in the US has access to a grocery store. You have a choice there. Not everyone, but most people, like 96% of Americans, have access to a grocery store. So you have choices, and one of them has a victim. One of them might have harmed something. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. Go ahead, Keith.
Honestly speaking, too, like the best thing that we can do in terms of having more farmers introduce veganic principles into their farming would be to produce more vegans in general, because that's why like we do these lives and whatnot. We want more people to understand these things and go vegan, so that ultimately over time more people in general go vegan, more demand is generated for these kinds of concepts. More of the population goes vegan after a certain point, like let's say 50%, 60% of America's vegan in this hypothetical. Now we have like the kind of power politically to say, hey, let's work on passing laws that makes it so that it's illegal to spray a certain amount of pesticides that cause this amount of indiscriminate harm, blah, blah, blah. Like these kinds of things could be looked at and implemented once we have the kind of political sway. All we can do right now is at a grassroots level, at least from a practical standpoint. We can make certain personal choices, but those personal choices won't really make like a big impact politically or from the impact of like those farmers. We need to drive more people to be vegan, and that starts with conversations.
It's true.
Okay.
Yeah. Being vegan is just living a life that you're purposely trying to avoid exploiting someone. If you wanted to advocate against it, that would push it faster to help other people transition so these animals are liberated faster. But veganism itself is just about not being a part of the industries that are exploiting sentient beings.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just internalizing all of this, but y'all have been very thorough and explained things quite well, and I thank y'all
Have you
both for
seen
your
Dominion?
input. Dominion?
Have you seen?
No, I'm way too what would the word be? I don't think I have the resilience to look into the
Should tell you
atrocities of
something, though,
industrial
though.
farming.
That should tell you something.
Yeah, and exactly, because I mean, if more people knew where their food came from,
They go
like McDonald's.
over free range too, organic, large, like
I
not
didn't know that.
caged animals.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
so they
like
go
I
over
know
that
cage
as well.
free is just a
Right. So those animals, the labels sound nice, but the realities are not that nice. There's another movie called Pignorant where they specifically look at organic free range pig farms, and our methods are the same mostly in all these Western countries. And you just learn that there's really no right way to do the wrong thing. But it's good to watch to see it Because if you're going to demand it, someone is going to have to go through it. And if you can't even watch it, why are you asking someone to go through it?
Right. So,
And I would love to actually hear from you. If you watch it, please come talk to me. I would love to hear your thoughts.
I really don't think I could sit through it. I mean, I originally got exposed to just videos or just the industrial farming techniques. I think it was PETA, and I had this stigma about how PETA was bad, and there's still, some people still have their reservations. I think because they killed some of their shelter animals.
I was going to say, PETA is a misunderstanding. It doesn't matter about them. They're not related to this movie at all.
Yeah.
This is a group of people that went to expose what happens in slaughterhouses and farms, because people like you purchase the labels that say these animals are happy, but you don't really know what you're paying for. And I think that if you're struggling to see it, you should hold off on buying those things until you know what you're demanding, because you're literally asking someone to go through the most horrific thing just for your taste pleasure. And you're doing this, like...
Yeah, you're just putting blinders on. You're not...
Right. And that's maybe what would be better for you. I don't know if you want to look up this speech. I haven't suggested it in a while. It's called... The Best Speech You'll Ever Hear.
Okay.
And it's just a guy talking in a school. The best speech you'll ever hear.
Okay.
The guy's name is Gary that's talking. Gary Yourofsky.
Because I will admit... Sorry, you go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, please, go ahead.
I was going to talk about myself personally, because, while I've over past 2-3 years, and I don't cook for myself, because I still live with my parents. But I have made efforts to. I don't eat pork anymore. I don't eat beef. I rarely eat chicken. And it's hypocritical of me, because I know if I was placed in that situation, and I mean, obviously if it was a survival situation, I would make those bad decisions. But it's not. I have the luxury of choice. So I know I couldn't raise an animal and eat it. So I feel like it would be hypocritical of me to eat them. But I still eat fish. I just ate fish today. I ate fish and shrimp. So
they go over fish.
Yeah. Okay.
There's actually, I don't know actually if the YouTube one is bookmarked, but there are different sections, and you can like clip through it and find just the specific one, so you don't watch it all. If you are that worried about it, you can watch the one about fish, and they actually show the processes of small scale, large scale fishing, the suffering that they go through once they're out of the water. It's just, for me, when I was first playing around with like plant-based diets, it was just for me to be healthier or whatever. I wasn't even considering the animals. But once you realize you don't want to cause them suffering, it's almost a matter of, it's just, you're going to want to not use them, right? You're going to look for the alternative naturally, because you know that using them is wrong, and that they can't even consent to that use.
Yeah, there's the quote, it requires willpower to like not overconsume sugar, but it takes morals and ethics to avoid the consumption of animal products, essentially. So,
right. When you are eating sugar, you're letting yourself down if you're avoiding it. If you consume animals, you're letting the animals down. It's somebody else.
And like from the fish standpoint, and shrimp and other marine animals, like if you want to learn more about that topic specifically, I'd recommend the documentary Seaspiracy.
Mm-hmm. And I know it's absolutely not sustainable, and it is a detrimental practice to marine life and also the other animals, which we're not trying to harvest.
A point I wanted to make that they don't make in that documentary, because a lot of that documentary goes over like it does get into the ethics, especially towards the end, but it talks a lot about the ecological impacts and whatnot, and health impacts caused by consuming marine life. But the other thing from like the moral, like a hypothetical to throw at you that I throw at people sometimes around this is, imagine a world in which when we fish fish out of the sea, they don't just silently flop around. They scream at the top of their lungs, as any other animal would do when we're causing harm to them.
Most of them suffocate. Like that's how they have them killed. And it's not.
Yeah. No, that's the crazy part to me, is like you can also think of like things like in the inverse. Like imagine if humanity was an underwater species, and instead of casting a line into water,
we casted lines onto land and we waited for like squirrels or something to bite onto the hook, and then we dragged that squirrel underwater.
Yeah.
You know, it's no different. It's just like opposing sides of a spectrum of like, do you breathe air? Do you breathe water?
Yeah. And there has been, or I didn't believe it at first, but you know, fish do feel pain. I mean, they have the ability to feel it.
Yeah, they have nociceptors, so they literally have the nerve endings that we have that tell us we have pain.
Yeah. And so when they get hooked, I mean, even people who fish recreationally, I'm still struggling to
That's
say
okay.
that.
I've
Yeah.
been messing my words up all day. You're good.
Yeah.
You're in great company.
You know, I mean, it's like you're just hooking a fish and now throwing it back in the water, and you know, that's needless. Yeah, it's
I don't, can you
needless.
imagine if somebody like took a dog and they took him underwater for like even just a couple of seconds and let him
Yeah.
out? Like the dog is clearly distressed.
Yeah.
Same thing with the fish. They're suddenly they can't
because,
breathe.
just because they don't look cute and they don't make noise, it's okay though. To some
That's what people think. Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess things like bivalves would kind of be. I mean, I think there's like ostro-vegans, like some people who eat bivalves, just because they're not sentient.
Yeah.
So bivalves, I would recommend if you want to learn more about that. It's if you just go look up on YouTube. I can't remember the full name. I could probably remember it partially, but if you go on YouTube and type in the 2 a.m. vegan, they only have like a couple of videos, and one of them is a discussion that takes place between a marine biologist who specializes in mollusks and other bivalves and whatnot.
Yeah.
And he's discussing their sentient level, and how we should absolutely be erring on the side of caution, and how they do absolutely show signs of sentience. And it's not as devoid as a lot of people make it out to be. So if you really want to learn more about that topic, I'd recommend that video. It's like a two-parter, I think like 30 minutes altogether, but it really delves into that process. Like, you know, the central thing is just a misunderstanding of central nervous systems between species. Like, if you don't know, like in lobsters and crabs, they don't have, you know,
or even insects.
Typical, they don't have typical brains. They have cerebral ganglia, and that's one of the misconceptions that has always taken place with bivalves. Like, oh, they just have nerve ganglia. No, they have a cerebral ganglia, and they have extensions to that are now nerve ganglias that reach out from there. Like they show, like, you know, the diagram, the bodily makeup of say like an oyster or other mollusks. So yeah, there's room for consideration and erring on the side of caution when it comes to these animals. The only animals that like really get into like the realm of like, yeah, I really don't have any like true like genuine proof of sentience would be things like jellyfish or coral or certain sea sponges, because they are not comprised of any kind of central nervous system. It's a neural network. But even then, I would still kind of just err on the side of the caution, and also just realize and rationalize, like, wow, I'm really grasping for straws just to consuem anything that's considered.
Yeah, people don't eat those anyways. I mean, it's like,
Yeah,
if they do,
no
it's
one's eating
very.
jellyfish.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's not a mainstream thing in Western society. I'm sorry, I just keep loading questions on you. I'm just trying to learn. Is there any animal husbandry practices that you not advocate for, but would consider beneficial?
I personally would prefer that we don't allow them to procreate. Can they mate? I don't care, as long as they don't make more babies. Because at least domesticated animals, wild animals, I don't care. But we have messed with their genetics to be totally dependent on us. So when a new baby is born, there must be a human there to take care of them, or it's really risky if they're going to even make it. And I don't think that we should be breeding animals into existence just for our funsies.
Okay.
Especially, like I said, if they got those.
The understanding would just be that, like, in like an ideal like vegan situation, you know, and this would be many years into the future, obviously, because it's not going to happen overnight. But like in 100% vegan world or whatever, there just would not exist any domesticated animals at all. Whether it's, you know, dogs, cats, cows, chickens, etc. Like all of these animals would be something that we would wants to not see the arbitrary continuation of just for our use, where there's no need of necessity.
So even with vermicomposting, because I do that right now. You know what vermicomposting is, right?
Yeah,
Just
worms.
using earth. Yeah, I'm doing that for my garden beds. I
Is it
don't.
outside?
It is outside. You know, they're able to.
Is it a bin or is it like a section of your yard?
No, it's kind of it's like it's a big pile.
Okay, but it's
Yeah.
on the ground, right? It's just outside on the
Yeah,
ground.
I mean,
Are you purchasing worms from someone else to bring them in and then dump
No,
them? Or is it- Are you?
How did I get them? So we have a it's not really a trench, but I mean it kind of is. Whenever it floods or whenever it rains a lot of them get washed in there. So I just picked them out and then I just put them in there. So now I have a bunch of worms that put into a compost system.
So wait, you're saying these worms were like about to drown, essentially?
Kind of, but I know that worms can hold their breath for, or not.
Sure.
I mean, they can be underwater submerged for.
I mean, I would only do like maybe something like that where I'm like, hey, you as a worm, you're in a really bad predicament. I'm going to pick you up and move you to a better situation. I wouldn't have really an issue with that. It's more of like, especially in like the realm of someone like digging up earth somewhere else to be like, hey, I don't like where you're at, Mr. Worm. I'm going to pick you up and move you over here. I don't think we should be doing that.
No.
Other ways for us to compost and do things.
Yeah,
Again, go talk to Ben the vegan farmer. You can
Yes.
talk to him.
Yes, actually, absolutely. Ben the vegan farmer and Ozark Limbs. I never say his full name, so I don't always fully remember. But they're both veganic farmers, and they go live every Sunday, I believe, too.
Okay, maybe I'll tune in.
Yeah, you should definitely. I was gonna say you should definitely give them some of your questions because you have great ones. I'm not the one to answer them.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. I'm just here trying to learn and just ask questions.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to retain a lot of it. I had one more and I can't remember it. It was gonna be something after vermicompost or animal husbandry.
Something about about animal husbandry.
Yes,
I don't know.
yes,
I'm
yes.
just against all breeding in general. I don't think we should be messing around with their genitalia.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you're kind of playing animal eugenics, and that's kind of been normalized. So
Yeah, exactly. It's just normalized. People just don't think about it. But when you break it down, what's happening, you realize it's an immoral thing that we're forcing on someone.
yeah.
Well,
although
I
the
do want to
animals,
say.
what? Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I
No,
was
you're
gonna
fine.
say,
Go
although
ahead.
the animals don't have greater understanding of what's going on, we do. So
Right, we're moral agents and they're moral patients. So what we do affects them, and that's important for us to recognize and to be aware of. And I would argue that moral agents have the obligation to not exploit or use those that are vulnerable to us just because they're vulnerable, because that's just the might makes right fallacy. So, but I don't mean to be a downer, but I have to use the restroom so bad.
no,
And
it's
I'm
fine.
gonna call the live here now, but I
Yeah,
do
I was
appreciate
about to
this was a great
close it.
conversation. I got really
Yeah.
sucked into it, so it was
Thank you
good.
so much. Y'all were
Yeah, I
very
appreciate your questions.
respectful, and I think I said y'all were thorough, and you explained your points really well.
Yeah, I mean, feel
Thank
free
you.
to ask any other questions that you happen to come up with some other time.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, please do. Please send me a message or Keith. Yeah, would love to answer any questions. And if you do, or if you're able to get yourself to watch Dominion, I would love to talk to you about what you saw, how you're feeling, all of it. Or if you don't want to talk to me, there's also other vegans that we mentioned. Keith is a great resource. I would definitely hit him up if you have any questions. He's very knowledgeable.
Yes. Again, I don't know because
I know.
watched the
Well,
PETA
you know
stuff
what?
at 6.
Just open it on YouTube on one of
Mhm.
your tabs and leave it there for you to watch.
Is it really available on YouTube? They allow
Yeah.
something like that. That's
Yeah, it's free. Yeah. Well, because it's standard practice. It's legal practice.
crazy. I would have
Yeah.
thought that would have had some sort of disturbing content and.
I mean,
I don't know if
there's other vegan documentaries to watch too. Like ultimately,
Oh, yeah.
like if you wanted to explore other areas, but we're always open to talk about it and other stuff. I mean, the most recent one that is like partially ethical based, but is
yeah, not like overly, I guess like gory or whatever, is the recent documentary Christspiracy. It's kind of like delving into like the religious concepts of exploitation of animals, and you can think about it in the context of like someone who's trying to be altruistic, which is what many people are trying to do when they are being, following a certain religion, typically speaking, anyways. So someone being altruistic, it doesn't have to be like someone who is Christian or Muslim or Buddhist or whatever, or just someone who's spiritual. Like you could be any of these things, or just atheist, whatever. All of us are kind of like aiming for a certain level of altruism. So yeah, like that would be another documentary. It came out like a month ago. It's on christspiracy.com or .org.
Yeah, I
I
think
can't
you're
remember.
right.
Okay. Yeah, I'm
It's
not.
it's actually really good. I'm
Yeah,
atheist, and I still thought it was great.
it talks about religion, but it has like also nothing to do with religion at the same time in a weird way. So it's more about the ethical quandaries of like why the main question, the guiding question, if you will, is like how would Jesus kill an animal, especially for like unnecessary consumption. So that's the concept, is like exploring that kind of quandary and just thinking about that kind of question in the light of your own life, whether you're religious or not, is a good thing to explore. So I'd recommend that one if you want a documentary that explores the ethics of animal consumption without being like overly, gory. If you have issues with watching something like Dominion, you could also just listen to Dominion. You don't have to. You could listen to the narration and whatnot and hear what they have to say without looking at it, I guess. But yeah.
Oh, you muted yourself. No, I don't know if you. Oh, he left. Okay. Well,
Maybe
I did
looking
want
at
to
it.
I did want to confirm to you, Keith, you are right. It was christspiracy.com. So.
Oh, cool.
Yep. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you, Keith. You are a godsend. I really appreciate you having my back. And same thing to Lydia that was up here, and even Andy. Not your mom. Is it mum? I always say mom, and it's not your mom, not your milk. So I always mess up his name.
Shout out to all the moderators who are helping in the chat.
Yes.
Doing their
Thank
job.
you, all the mods, keeping it a little more smooth in the chat, because I just kind of I fail at it. So
Yeah.
anyway, I appreciate everyone.
I can't do it.
I can't. I want to focus on the conversation. If I read the text, I get distracted. And I noticed that when guests do that, they do the same thing. They get really quiet for long periods of time, and they're just reading the the comments, not really engaged. Exactly. Come back. Come talk to me. Exactly. All right. Well, you guys have a good rest of your day. I'll see you later, Keith. I'll see you on the front lines.
Yep.
And everyone else, just have a great vegan day.
Have a good one.
Same thing. See you. Bye.